Compliance with Nebraska's Open Meetings Act, a copy of which is on the wall over there. And we will start with the chamber. We outweighted David Brown, and so we have Patty McAtee doing the presentation to the chamber this morning. Welcome, Patty.
Thank you, and I apologize. Yeah, David had another meeting that he had to get to, so so you get me. So I hopefully can be quick and brief to the point and answer any questions you might have. I think David talked to each of you individually. The only person I don't believe he was able to visit with was Commissioner Boyle up to this point in time. So what you have in front of you is our first quarter Prosper Omaha Investor quarterly report. I'm not going to go through that with you today. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I do have some of those copies. There you go.
Do you know who that was?
Yeah.
Yeah, we know each other.
Commissioner Boyle.
Yeah. Well, I told Doug I laughed because I worked with David Kramer on the Build It Omaha campaign, and I remember him back in those days.
Sure.
Do you have another one, Patty?
I sure do. Thanks. So if you could pull this document out that's inside that quarterly report, just to quickly give you kind of brief update on Prosper Omaha. What that is the economic development arm of the chamber. We go out and raise funds separately for economic development activities at the chamber. There's really kind of the chamber side of the house, and there's the economic development side of the house. If you think back on how we got here, Douglas County actually was an investor back in the Target Omaha days. They contributed $50,000 a year for over a period of 4 years. It was, according to my records, 1995 through 1998, but the county has not contributed since then. The Omaha Chamber is a regional economic development organization. We have Sarpy County, Cass County, Washington County. We've got Fremont that just joined the partnership, and Potawatomi County as well. Each of those counties contribute to their individual economic development organizations. But what we're here today to talk to you about is the accomplishments that the Chamber has done in the past really 20 years with economic development. So when you think of the Target Omaha days, we were landing about 10 to 15 projects per year. 30% of those were new to the region, 70% were existing, working with existing companies, which is typical of regional economic development organizations. Most of them around the country do not go after new projects. We were landing about 1,000 jobs per year and about $100 million in capital investment. You fast forward 10 years and we launched the GO initiative, and that ran from 2004 through 2013.
Hi.
Sorry.
Well, that's what we're sorry. Mark was talking too much at lunch.
Let me grab another copy here.
You give it to me, I just gave them mine.
Oh, thanks.
That's okay. Here, we'll get another.
David had another meeting.
David had
I
another
don't need
meeting,
it.
sorry.
Was that good?
Yep, I'm good.
David
I'm good.
Yeah.
Was he here?
No,
No.
he had another
Yeah.
He
meeting
left.
he had to get to.
We moved up to Patty instead.
Sorry.
Supposedly you were the only one that maybe they hadn't reached yet.
Yeah, and I think, Commissioner Boyle, you called and I emailed you the documents. And my job, sorry, I should have introduced myself. My job is, I handle fund development for the economic development side of the house for the chamber. So my job is to go out
We
and
haven't
raise the money.
David since '98, I believe it.
Yeah, 98 was the last contribution. We are actually going through this right now,
Okay.
and we're talking about the GO initiative.
Okay.
Through 2004 through 2013, over that 10-year period, we have the chamber landed 462 projects. 48% of those were new to the organization or to the region. 52% existing. Over 24,000 jobs and over $4.6 billion in capital investment. So what I asked our research team to do, if you turn to the next page, is to really look deeper on what were the projects we landed in Douglas County from that 10-year period of time. And out of the, I'm sorry, the total numbers here, out of the total 462, we landed 264 projects in the county. Out of the 24,289, we landed 15,829 jobs and over 2.1 billion in capital investment. And so what I asked them to do was really kind of take a look at the tax impact, the economic impact that the county has.
Patty, can I ask you, is this non-Omaha, Bennington Valley areas, or this Douglas County unincorporated?
This is City of Omaha.
So this is like all the cities within Douglas County, it's not like the unincorporated areas, this is city and all?
That, I will have to double check that question
Okay.
with our research team and make sure.
Like, looking at the numbers, I assume that it's.
Yeah, I'm assuming, but I don't wanna.
Yeah,
assume.
I believe so, but
Okay.
until I ask him, I wanna clarify that, and I can email you that. That would be my guess, but since I didn't run the numbers, I don't wanna state anything falsely, so
Okay.
I'll double check and make sure.
And I do have a question.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
The funds to the county, is that after you subtract TIF?
Yes, we did not include TIF. If you go on the 2 more pages down, there's a table 3 that includes says with the TIF adjustment. So no, that I'm just looking at my notes that our research team said was calculated pre-TIF adjustment. So while I'm not the expert on these tax numbers, I think what this shows is the work that the chamber does in bringing large-scale projects to the county, obviously benefits the county. And so we just wanted to be able to provide you with the data to help support our financial request today. So again, I apologize, David's not here to answer specific questions about this, and we can certainly get back to you on any questions you might have on these numbers. Our research team at the chamber ran the numbers for us.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
I'm a little bit puzzled about the taxes because.
Okay.
So this funds to the county, this is property taxes that we get,
Mm-hmm.
and that's based on
This is based on
$2 billion
the,
worth of property that's built.
this is based on the projects that we landed. We went back and pulled out specific projects that the chamber was responsible for bringing to the county.
But I mean, this is property.
Property taxes,
$2
6
billion.
million is what you're
It's
saying.
on the valuation is, business investment is $2,168,000,000. So that's what you're basing the income on?
The business investment, yeah, was the projects that we
See,
landed.
this has to be brick and mortar, that's all we get money from, property tax. And so we don't, if they're spending it on something else, we don't get money unless it's property, I suppose, inside business property. But this is a huge number, and I really question it because I don't think we don't get that benefit.
Okay,
I don't think the 2.1 billion is realistic. I don't even know what the assessment is for the whole county.
36.
36 billion? Eek. I think this is,
okay,
I mean, I just don't think it's relevant. I think it's, and funds to the county, I really question. I really doubt that it's producing 6 million out of, I just don't think it can because it has to be bricks and mortar. So I guess we'd have to look to the city and have to bring $2.1 billion worth of construction projects inside Douglas County in the last 9 years.
okay.
I don't know.
That, like Claire said, that's not TIF.
What?
That's not TIF.
That's not TIF, yeah, see, the trouble is every one of them is probably TIF. And then we got our taxes suspended for 15 years. So I just question that.
Okay.
The impact would be to the city and all these, the city of Omaha government. I mean, they get sales taxes, they get all sorts of things.
Okay.
And the county doesn't get to participate in that. All we have is property taxes, and unless they build, the First National Bank, which of course has TIF, that tower is locked in.
Right.
And so we don't get the benefit, all those things are TIF that kills us. And then, just to be honest about it. And
No,
I don't
that's-
see that coming. And then the next page talks about residential impact, total annual property tax. So are you saying that's in addition, 5.8 million is in addition to 6 million?
Well, and these numbers are run off of, looking at, the employment numbers. So if you look at the 15,820,
Jobs.
So this means that homes, this page to me says that personal residences are producing 5.8 million. I don't believe it. I can't.
Okay.
I just think it's inflated tremendously, to be
Okay.
honest, and I don't mean to be overly critical, but that's a huge chunk. What kind of, Joe, what kind of valuation would it take to produce 5.8 million?
For
That's-
who, for the county, or?
Well, let's just say, as a tax base, the assessor would have to have how many billions of dollars to produce 5.8 million in revenue? And,
Let's see, I think,
because the mill levy is .02 something, isn't it?
yeah, our mill levy is, I think, 28 cents per, 28.5 per $100 of value, right?
28 cents.
Right.
So this may be the total, I'm sorry, I'm questioning whether it's even the total annual property taxes paid by new residential property. I can't imagine everybody's building.
And I
a
think the
house.
total tax levy,
I don't think, to be candid, I don't think everybody who's coming into the city is building a new house.
right,
So they're moving in and others are moving on, who knows what, but
okay,
I'm sorry,
okay.
and that's that's all I'm looking at, is what is the property tax revenue that would validate any kind of a donation?
Mhm.
And, you know,
Patty,
Okay.
Peter,
Go ahead.
so Patty, spillover activity on first, I'm assuming spillover activity is for us, for us indirect is, are you, the spillover activity sales
What
and
page you
income
on,
tax,
Chris?
the one right before, the one where you read the $6 million
You're on that
funds for
page,
county, yeah,
before it.
I don't know, it's 204 to 23,
194.6
go.
million?
The one at the top where it says,
The
Douglas
which
County's
table?
GO project,
Okay, got it.
2004 to
Table 1.
2013.
Okay, table one,
Okay, yeah.
yeah, okay.
I'm assuming the spillover effect is sales and income tax?
You
Could
know,
those
and
be
again,
indirect stuff?
I apologize, I'm not,
No, I understand.
yeah, I wish David were here to answer these questions, because, this isn't my forte, I don't
No,
work
I
in
hear
this
you.
world.
That's okay.
I go out, yeah, so,
Yeah,
I
we
wish I could
respect
answer
you
you,
being
I'm
here.
sorry.
You know
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Believe me.
Yeah. And I wish I would have called Scott up here to Scott Strain, who's our head research guy. He could have answered all these questions, so.
The other thing is, we are in a really tight budget situation, trying to go without a mill levy increase, which is also important to businesses that are here.
Yeah.
And we've done that 2 out of the last 3 years. Hopefully we can do it this year, we're closing the gap. And the other thing is, had the chamber supported getting rid of the state tax, inheritance, I mean,
Yeah.
which I'm not sure they ever had any discussions with us before they did that, to look at who are
Who
really
pays.
affected by that, which are people that are not part of the family. Most of them live out of town. Joe, you correct me on that, because we went through a detailed kind of look at that.
you know, there was an interesting article in the paper about that guy who died and had left, yeah, 5 million, and did you see that the Douglas County inheritance tax on that was like 600,000, but they were having to chase his relatives all over the country, and
Well, I can speak to that because I had a 93-year-old woman who was a teacher. This is anecdotal, but it's true. And this is the same sort of case where there were like 40 relatives, and I found them all. And one of them was a lawyer in Los Angeles, and she really hammered me. So I made everything transparent, and everybody, everything, you know. So it was full disclosure and complete, more than what we really wanted, because the people who were taking from this 93-year-old woman who died was very frugal. She had a $3.5 million estate, teacher. And what happened was that the closest relative was a grand niece, and then it started going from there, grand, you know, down there. And So I sent the letters out to all these people, told them what they were getting according to the formula, told them what their taxes they had to pay, 18%, because they were not, way down the line. And nobody objected. I had 5 people call me from around the country, from upstate New York to Oregon, and a couple people in Southern California who called, and they're talking just generally about things and nothing specific. And all at once, every one of them said, "Can I ask you a question?" I said, "Sure." "Who is this? Who is this woman?" And they were taking $35,000 and $40,000 out of it. It never mattered. It was a windfall. So I mean, to have the chamber frankly say, "We want to cut that spending," that income is horrible. And I know, I'll be honest with you, I wish David were here. I wish I could meet him.
Yeah.
The criticism of the county and getting our spending under control is absolutely unwarranted, and I'm a little bitter about it.
Okay.
I'm quite bitter about it. We need your support, not your criticism, because I don't think you know what the chamber doesn't know what it's talking about, to be blunt.
Patty, can I?
Sorry.
Yeah, and that's why I brought it up, because I share
Took a shortcut.
Commissioner Boyle's feelings about that we'd like to be sure that we don't just see one another when we need something.
Right.
We don't want to read about it in the paper. Maybe we need to be, maybe I need to be more informed about the chamber. You definitely need to be more informed about us.
Would you be willing to do some one-on-one meetings then
I
with
think
David?
I think it'd be a wholesale. I think it'd be better to have all of us.
Oh,
We need to
okay.
have joke and explain what we spend our money on, the social pressures that we
Okay.
have, and obligations.
Well, I can get that lined
Okay.
up.
That'd be
Absolutely.
helpful, I'll tell you
Yeah,
the truth.
I can get that scheduled.
Good.
Go ahead.
Well, I asked, I actually talked to David about that when I met with him back in the old Target Omaha days. We gave the 50,000, and what happened was they went to the legislature and used our money to do a PR campaign against local government spending, which, I mean, in their little thing, it said Douglas County. And so after that, we had a conversation with Bob Bell, who at the time
Right.
was over there, and said, kind of what we're talking about
Uh-huh.
is that you really don't know what county government does, and so we would ask, request, encourage that you
Yeah.
come and have someone from the chamber at our meetings.
Yeah.
And specifically, maybe not everyone, but for sure during budget processes.
Right.
And that never happened, and then, of course, the funding went away.
Yeah.
And so I suppose they felt by then,
Oh, I
there
apologize.
wasn't
I
a-
wish I would have known that.
The only person who's more ill-informed about county operations is Governor Heineman.
And, I know
He's horrible. Glad he's going.
someone get
Okay.
tired of me saying it, but the fact is, our budget meetings are the most open of any subdivision of government.
Yeah.
It'd be nice if the chamber wants to
Mm-hmm.
have input, to listen, and then if they say, "Why are you doing this?" we'd welcome that. And I might be the
Absolutely.
first one to say, let's give them their money to support Prosper Omaha or whatever. Doug Kagan sits in these meetings, the League of Women Voter sits in these meetings, every single one of them, and all the commissioners are at every meeting. And we don't have a single meeting where Claire and I and some other commissioners, or one other commissioner would be meeting with Joe and saying, "Hey, how do we do this? Let's not talk about it at the meeting," or whatever. We don't have those. It's totally an open
Transparent.
situation.
Yep, transparent.
And that is the way it's been for some years now. Doug, you want to say?
Commissioner Rogers has been trying to talk.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
Let's,
no, Pat, I just want to add to a little bit of it that, I'm gonna just tell, like I told David Friday, I was against this. I told him I'd listen, and I'm still willing to listen, but I want to add to everybody else saying, and I know what the engagement they do with some of the other electeds, but we don't really get a lot of engagement on, and some stuff that's just knowing what's going on and stuff like that. Plus also, so, and if another, because he gave me the example of UNMC, I said, that's fine. I said, but UNMC, we talk to them regularly. I know what's going on with them, and we do some things back and forth, no matter what it agrees. And so, just the cultivation aspect of it.
Yeah. No,
Okay.
that's fair, and I appreciate
And-
that. I wish I'd have known that.
And the other piece is Go and all these other entities. I didn't know if they did it in the past, but it's particularly with Prosper Omaha, you all are using some of this money to give to candidates. And
No,
don't
no
know.
dollars from Prosper Omaha go to candidates. There's a separate PAC. The
Okay,
fund-
now when you
yeah,
said
the
it to-
chamber
okay.
PAC goes to the candidates, so that's
Okay.
completely separate.
because I know he mentioned that when I heard it
No.
on And I've heard a couple of times from Creighton, so if that's fine, that's it
Yeah,
too.
yeah, no, those are separate funds, no, that doesn't cross over
Okay.
at all. And KPMG comes in every year, we do a financial audit on all the dollars raised.
Okay.
So,
I have to
no.
interject one
Yeah.
thing out of order.
Yeah.
I've asked for money from your PAC and been refused. The county commissioner, or the chamber does not give money to candidates for the county board, so I guess we know where we stand. 'Cause
Well, let me
apparently we don't care.
let me correct it. I got some 8 years ago, but that's not my rationale. My rationale is more so the PJs that, you know, we give to the effort, and they're going to fund some state senators that are going to lobby against the property tax, against the inheritance tax.
Well, and the irony to me that when in my meeting with David, and I hope you don't feel like you're walking
No,
into an
no,
ambush.
no.
But there is some irony that they want, I mean, at least the request to me was to fund this out of inheritance tax, while at the same time, they're lobbying to take away our inheritance tax.
Yeah.
So there's a little irony
Yeah.
in there.
That's when I brought that to the forefront.
Yeah.
Claire. Very good. Doug, should we let Doug talk?
Yeah.
Fine.
Ma'am, I just have a question. One of your last pages, it says, you have 196 investors. Are any, who are those investors? Are they members of the chamber or individuals or government entities?
You can go on our website at omahachamber.org, there's a list of them. The only public contributor is the city of Omaha, otherwise they're all private investors.
Now, the city has already agreed to give you money for this?
Yes, we go before the city council every year for funding. So yeah, they give us $125,000 a year.
125 or 150?
It's going up to
125, we've asked for an increase of 25,000 to
Yeah, I thought it was
150.
150.
Yeah.
They're going.
If I was the city, I wouldn't even blink an eye because they get sales tax, and I'm sure that benefits whatever they got.
Chris, just so you know, and Patty, again, we respect you're here, so you're the messenger. I brought that up to David, because I said I've been on both sides of this situation. So I did bring up exactly what you said, Mary Ann.
Patty, when you said at the beginning that the, being regional and, we talked, David and I talked a long time about that piece of it. But you said that the other counties, do you know what funds they use? Or is it hotel motel? Is it?
I don't know where their funds
Okay,
come from.
okay.
Yeah, I got their amounts that they contribute to each of the different entities, but I don't know where, if it comes out of general funds, I don't know where those funds, I can find out.
Could you, could
Yeah,
you?
you
Okay,
bet.
thanks.
I'd be curious to see that information too.
Okay.
Because in my presentation with David, he said every other county is supporting this, and I thought, well, if that's true, I want to know it. I mean, you know, that would carry some weight with me. I would like to know what the role of the other
I would
counties
think
is.
it'd be interesting.
Okay, yeah, I can get that.
Yeah, send that to Joe or Patrick, or
Okay.
whichever contact you want it to be, Pat.
Send it to Joe, that's fine.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and I would, during our conversations again, I actually was the one who brought up inheritance tax because, that to me would be more apropos than our general fund, dollars. We don't have a pot of quote third-party funding anymore, like we used to. But again, I was reminded, that the chamber worked against getting rid of that for counties, so. I do know counties in other areas use those dollars for projects such as these for economic development, but,
I'll find out
yeah.
where that,
Yeah.
because I know each of them, do give too, but I don't know what budget that they're pulling from, so I can find that out though.
Sometime we'd like to know too if the chamber's ever not supported a TIF project.
Not supported a TIP project? Okay.
It'd be kind of interesting
Yeah.
to see, because I know.
I'm gonna propose legislation that the funding, right now TIF comes out of the hides of local government, the money. And so I'm gonna propose with this, I hope with the support of the board, and I even told the governor this, we had a long conversation once about this stuff. And anyway, at the chamber, he was there and I got a chance to talk to him because nobody else was, so I had a nice conversation with him. But I wanna see, I'm all for TIF, that's super, I think it's a farce because You get big companies, the famous ones now, I don't mean to name them, we all know who they are. Every company comes in and they ask for TIF, and it's a but-for proposition. This would not be built but for these funds. That's really false. It would have been built, it's just that they want this extra money, and I don't blame them. But we need to change the but-for, because it isn't but-for. It's just simply a grant. We're gonna give you this money. It's a subsidy to help pay you for stuff. And it also declare things blighted, which is a disaster. That creates a lot of problems for people that have their neighborhoods or area degraded, blighted. It's degrading and unnecessary. Lastly, the money needs to come out of the state. They have a $700 million surplus right now. And what happens to us, I asked Joe to give me the figures on it, but right now we have about $3 million a year we lose because of TIF. So we lose $3 million a year because of these projects. We're not making any money out of them. And
Yeah,
then
which
the
is
city-
3% of our total property tax.
Yeah,
that we
and the city of
receive.
Omaha is magnified because they're larger and they have, a larger base. The city of Valley, much to my surprise, 12% of their property taxes goes to TIF projects. 12% off the top for these wealthy companies to expand. That's, talk about welfare. I mean, they're absolutely on welfare. They're driving their Cadillacs to pick up their checks. So I mean, it's really an insult. So we need to have the state pay it all. We need the chamber's support on that. I'm gonna count on it.
Well, what I'd like to do, I'll go back obviously and talk to David,
Yeah.
but I would like to get, Randy Phelan is our new Senior Vice President of
Okay.
Economic Development. He just came, he replaced Ron Mosman,
Yeah.
he retired in December.
I met him, yeah.
And I would like to bring in Randy and whoever, the whole team, so they can answer the questions
Good.
you
That's
have.
great.
We
Okay.
can get it all out on the table, any issues you've
Good.
got, and try and address it and then move forward.
Let's schedule it out at UNO at that new building. I'm pretty fascinated by it.
Alum.
Yeah.
The community
Yeah, alum
engagement,
building,
the new one?
Well, there's another one.
The state
Collaborate
There's
Center.
the new community
Collaborate
engagement center,
Center.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And I think what Commissioner Boyle was saying, to be more direct, would be the building's 80-90% built, and we're appreciative of Ameritrade building and jobs. But it's 80-90%. If they hadn't gotten TIF, it wasn't approved till that's where the building was. Were they gonna stop construction, take it apart, and move on? Secondly, it's hard to call Nebraska Finishing Mart kind of a blighted
Gavilan.
TIF area.
Gavilan.
Yeah, those,
You know,
it
Kansas
just
City
looks
is
like,
budget.
and I've said it publicly at our meetings, it's a great tool, but if we keep abusing that tool, then the TIF's gonna go away when you really need it. And I think it's just kind of an automatic deal.
It
The
is.
apartments where the synagogue is, I think, is being approved now for TIF, and so on. So, we're giving you a lot of static.
It's okay, it's all right.
Well, what-
I'm fine.
So when
No.
you go back, you should
Yeah.
ask for a raise.
I'll tell him that.
Well, what TJ brought up, the Ameritrade building was almost done, and they said to the city, hey, wait a minute, what about the roads in and out and the parking lots and stuff? And the city went, oops, and it was a subtle administration, and so Ricky Cunningham retroactively pushed for TIF, which is, if this is really true, but for, I mean, I thought it was illegal. I brought it to the board, PJ, and the board, our board unanimously condemned it. I went to testify against it. Mayor Stothert and a couple other people voted no on the TIF. She was on the city council. And I mean, it was a farce. And what we really need is your help to shift the funding to the state. They've got the money, they've got the interest, they do economic development, we don't. And it's such pressure on property taxes. So,
Okay.
So you may have had enough for.
yeah.
Well, I appreciate your time. I've learned a lot.
You
I'll
only
just
got
say
up to
that.
page 2, Patty.
I know, I didn't even get
Sorry about
finished.
that.
No. Well, and just so you know, we are raising $23 million for 5 years for Prosper Omaha, and it's going to be broken down into these 4 focus areas. $12.5 million will be spent on economic development, $6 million on brand and image, $2 million on business climate, and $2.5 million on talent and workforce strategy, which is different from the former Target and Go initiatives. That has been primarily just economic development. So there is a difference in what we're doing with Prosper Omaha. These are and I know you've got those all in your books that you've received already, but these are the stated outcomes over the next 5 years. I'm not gonna go through those in line by line detail. As of today, we've got 196 investors who've pledged over 20 million. So we're well on our way to getting to the 23, and I think we'll get there, so.
PJ. Actually, if I may, Commissioner Kraft.
I'd like to go back to the way you've been thinking about it.
Sure.
And I'd much rather see you take the $6 million and reduce that, putting the additional money into grow, retrain, and retain and recruit the workforce of the future, and into create, grow, and recruit businesses and jobs in the region. Branding is important, but Omaha does have a brand.
Well, and what this is, and what you'll see when we get ready to launch, is it ties into the recruiting of the businesses and the talent.
Well, I realize that.
Yeah.
And it also would benefit the tourism, the convention business. But I still would rather see it into putting people to work, growing and retaining and recruiting the workforce. I much prefer that.
Commissioner Rogers.
Yeah, Patty, that was Mark kind of alluded to it. Omaha has a brand. I don't know if it's a beneficial brand, but it has a brand. But my point was going to be on that piece. I want to know how you all going to work with the CVB to do that. Because my feel is I don't want the CVB to get big-footed on this. I think it's a partnership, and I just want to know how you all are going to engage them on that.
The way it's been structured is both Dana Markle, she serves on our stakeholder task force. Deb Ward sits on, we've got 5 different task forces that are working on this, and both Dana and Deb have been integrally involved throughout the whole thing.
Okay.
So, yeah. And actually, there's another meeting today with them, so, yes.
Commissioner Boyle.
Yes, looking at the 4 boxes.
Uh-huh.
The blue one says to me, create a business climate that is conducted to growth, means that you take on all the local governments and insist and criticize them on their property tax levies. That's what that says to me.
Okay.
Because create a business climate means reduce their taxes. And that just is not compatible. You cannot run a good school system without money. You cannot take care of the people we take care of at the Douglas County Health Center or the mentally ill. We have a very shattered mental health system. We have 16 beds for the entire region. We need to do something dramatically. We need to help people coming out of prison. We have all these obligations. Plus, I met with a young attorney. His name is Tim Ashford, and he tells me that he'd probably be in prison or dead, but executed by now. But he was saved by a federal program that gave him a summer job as a young man, and it changed his attitude about life. He's a very successful attorney. He does capital cases, and he's successful in federal court, which is unusual. And he came to me, and he sent us a letter, and I went to lunch with him, took him to lunch, and we talked about it. And what he asked for was millions of dollars, $3 or $4 million, to put young people to work in the poorer areas of our city, get them off the streets at night, give them a job, give them some self-respect. That's where this money, a chunk of this money should go. We need to save this generation. We need to divert them from what they're doing, and you can do it partially with jobs. And I think I watched a TV show on this once, a documentary, that what started the gangs, the Crips and Bloods in Los Angeles, was when the Firestone Tire Factory shut down. The jobs that were lost, they were well-paying union jobs. It was the backbone of the community and all the businesses they supported and all the other things. When it closed and moved out of the country for their corporate bottom line, and disregard for the community, I might add, that gangs sprung up, and that has been their Firestone's legacy to our country. We need to provide people jobs. This stuff about create a business climate.
One
That's
part in
not
this,
correct.
if you go into the larger Prosper Omaha document that provides all the details on the targets and tactics, one piece of this is developing 5 industrial parks here in on the Nebraska side. One will be in Potawatomi County. One of those sites will be in North Omaha, one will be in South Omaha. The hope is to, yes, lure manufacturers to get them into the parts of our community that need those jobs, and that's part of this piece. There will be additional dollars spent that will be raised outside of the Prosper Omaha money to actually go acquire the sites, work with the city on doing the infrastructure, et cetera, et cetera.
You should say that instead of this, because this is a red flag. Any elected official who sees that they're not in a coma, knows what this means, because I've seen this before and I've been slugged by it before.
Okay.
This business climate thing, you know, when I was mayor, I used to say, you know, profit is not a dirty word, and I supported business communities like you wouldn't believe. But we've still got staffed every once in a while by these throwaway remarks about cut government spending. You know, it just is so destructive to an attitude of support. And then you turn the page and it says we want outcomes, we want to find pro-business candidates for state and local office recruiting. That's another red flag. You're finding people who will, as far as I'm concerned, be the same kind of ilk that we have in the House of Representatives that are all lockstep trying to shut things down. They're anti-government, anti-human needs, that are cold-hearted and are not fit for public service.
Okay, well, I appreciate all those comments. I am making
And I
notes.
wish David were here. We'll play the tape for him, that'd be great.
Yeah, and like I said, I wish I would have asked the question prior to, not knowing that the meeting would have lasted as long as it did. So, and I apologize because he did have another appointment he had to get to. So, but I appreciate your time. I appreciate just the willingness to listen. I promise you, I will get the individuals at the chamber that need to be at the table with all the commissioners, because this needs to happen, and
Yes.
I can work on that. I promise you that. So.
Thank you, Patty.
Commissioner Kraft.
Yes, and the jobs we create have to be living wage jobs.
Yeah.
Absolutely
If you,
have to.
yeah, and if you look at the materials, again, it's in the larger Prosper Omaha document that our goal is to bring at least 50% new to the market above median wage at the end of the first quarter. Those numbers are running at 84% right now on the projects that we're bringing in. So
And
yes,
the
that
other
is
thing
important.
Yeah, and you address it somewhat.
Yeah.
If I can read between the lines, skilled employees for targeted industries increased. We also need untargeted industries, the plumbers,
Mhm.
the welders.
Yep.
You know, we need the trades pushed hard.
And we've met with all of them under our talent and workforce strategy, which I can email out to all of you if that would be of interest. And that is a piece and a key component of it.
And with that piece you have there, do you have outcomes
Yes,
logged in?
yeah,
Okay, I'd like to see that.
okay. I'll get that out to everybody as well.
So I hope the chamber supports raising the minimum wage in Nebraska. I have a petition I circulate around, not today, I didn't bring it with me. Really, I mean, you know, when people are making several $1 million a year and then they bitch about people making $8 an hour, I mean, it really is a scandal. I mean, it just is a scandal. I mean, look at gasoline, I'm still buying it, you know, I don't care if McDonald's went to $5 $5 a piece for a lousy hamburger, people are still gonna buy it. So we need to raise the minimum wage big time. And we also need, seriously, in these 4 blocks, we need about $3 million for jobs for youth, poor youth. And we have all sorts of organizations that could feed those people into this system and get them off the streets and get them away from gangs and get them tuned into life.
And playing off what Mike just said, jobs for people on probation and parole.
Absolutely.
Because it's very difficult to get a job there. And if you can't find a job, you can't pay your rent.
Yeah.
You can't feed your kids. You can't pay child support. What are you gonna do? You're gonna create another crime because the world's down on me, you know. The mental illness that comes with being unemployed.
Yeah.
It's really as important as everything else we've just done today.
We're social services people. That's our focus. That's our responsibility.
Well, I still think it would be helpful that we as a chamber understand, yeah, the priorities of the county, but then also I think there needs to be some education there, because I think, yeah, there's a disconnect, I'll just say.
Hey, we look
Let's leave
forward
it
to
at
it.
that.
Thanks.
So,
Thanks.
I will
Thanks a
follow
lot,
up.
Patty, and I appreciate your attitude with all this criticism flying at you.
Especially being thrown in the fire.
It's okay, it's all right,
You really touched the nerve.
No, it's okay, it's okay. I appreciate your time, and I will be
Thank you,
back in
Patty.
touch with you, I
Thank
promise
you
you
very
that.
much.
Very good.
All right,
Thank you, Patty.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Run, Patty.
Okay, Joe.
Thank you. No, it's fine. Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna pass out the sheets that I emailed everybody during the week. So what I'd like to do in this section of the Finance Committee meeting is review the requested budgets and get some feedback from the commissioners about what they think we should do, because we basically have about $900,000 that at a minimum we have to cover through increased revenues or decreased expenses in the budget. And so what we did, like on the first sheet, we took the general fund. We have the budget that we adopted a year ago, the modified budget, which is the budget that, you know, has had some changes in there for salary and other additions that we made over the course of the year. Then we have the budget target, which was set out to off the modified budget basically, and a 1.5% increase in payroll. And then the fourth column is the requested budget, what the different departments and elected offices have come back with. And then the 1% column is the change in requested budget over the modified, which would be the percent off basically the current budget to what they're requesting. And then the second to last column is the target budget less requested. And then the last column is just some ideas thrown out there by staff about, you know, where we could potentially go to look at savings that we're, you know, just want to run up the flagpole and get people's impression of what they think.
Okay.
So we've done that for both the general fund and then the rest of the funds. And then after that, there's a page on revenues. You know, because from a budgetary standpoint, cutting $1 of expense and adding $1 of revenue is basically the same. So we looked at the revenue projections, and then the last page kind of shows the calculations that we get to what it takes to get to a balanced budget. So with that as background, I could start and lead us through it, and as we go through these, certainly everyone come in and give us their thoughts on this. And I guess I'll start with the assessor, and you can see that the assessor, well, he came in at his requested budget was less than the target was given to him by about $50,000. Two things to, I guess, keep in mind there. One is that included all the money that we had given to him a year ago for, you know, the new process that was being undertaken by that office. That, you know, as we track through the year, the appeals at that point wasn't really being used. And then the other thing in the assessor's budget right there, we don't have any of the savings from the merger reflected. So the only thing I threw out there, that $50,000 potential, that's very conservative, and that only represents not having the one elected official in there for 6 months. So that one's kind of a given, because the Register of Deeds makes $100,000. So if that position doesn't exist for 6 months, naturally you should see $50,000 in savings. But that's where that number comes from, and I know some of the commissioners have thought that we could be a little more aggressive there, so I will just open it up for discussion.
I'll speak to that. My thought is, we know there's gonna be some efficiency, and my thought at minimum, I think it should be $100,000 reduction.
I agree with Commissioner Morgan, and I think it should even go further, because I don't know, and we'll have to have one of our legal beagles do some checking, whether or not the assessor is required to have 2 deputies.
Yes, sir.
If it's not, then one should
Or
be.
three.
Yes. The assessor is required to have 2, the language says shall. The Register of Deeds says, the Register of Deeds may, with approval of the county board, have a chief deputy. The question you have to get from the county attorney is, since it's the merger of 2 offices and not the creation of a new office, both sets of statutes are still in play, they're still in place, and the Register of Deeds, I'm sure, will argue that county board previously authorized that chief deputy years ago, and she has a chief deputy. There's nothing in statute that allows the county board to take that away at this point. That's going to be her argument. We'll have to get that opinion.
My suggestion is that when we tell her, and I think she'd be positive with it, is to fire one of the deputies upstairs. I'd probably keep, my opinion is keep Goodwin and let whatever his name is go, and then put Larry in that position. That's what I would recommend. That's what I would do if I were there, because I think that's a change that needs to occur.
I think she has probably other plans I've not
Yeah.
spoken to her. The other thing I'll tell you, and why, on appraisal of properties, if anyone in this room has their home valued at $44 a foot, I'd like to know about it. And when you have time to go out and measure homes, which I know they're out doing, including my 30-year-old home plus 30, more than 30 in the last month, which is fine. The next part of that story is you have land at Regency Apartments at $2 a foot, our Treasure Building at $8 to $12 a foot on 84th, which we pay the taxes on.
Yeah.
And the building valued at $90 a foot, twice what Regency Apartments. If anyone thinks you can build a building on a slab without elevators, restrooms, kitchens, and all that cheaper than you build that Treasure Building, I'd like to talk to them. That's what they should be looking at. Are these large apartment complexes? I don't get how do you value. And if any of you say, well, PJ, why don't you buy it then for 150% more than it's valued at? No problem. Love to buy it at that. And at another property that's probably valued at $7 million, and the guy told me, and it's not too far away from this property, it's valued at probably somewhere around $7 million. He's got a real problem that all of us in this room would like to share it. He's got an offer of $40 million for the property. And it's within a mile of that. I was told that last night. And I felt sorry for him, man. It's such a tremendous problem because he has to pay so much in taxes because of the gain. But he's got a cash buyer at $40 million. So we need to be looking at the bigger fish, and by that I'm not picking on Doug, even though I like it. But the fact is, they're out measuring Doug's house. We ought to be measuring the Regency Apartments, figure out what apartments are selling for in Omaha. And I know a little about that, and start really looking at that stuff. So I think we want to look at the budget and let's see how they move forward. And that's why I say, hey, I think we start to take a look at this, and 100,000 to me seems to make sense. So we can get some other input.
Commissioner Morgan?
It could also be a legislative item that we look at in terms of not only just the individual offices where it says shall or may, but now that it's a combined, what happens then. But obviously we would need legislative stuff. So again, it could be one of our initiatives as we move forward.
Yeah, and should we be having Diane check to see if we can say, hey, there's only gonna be two chief deputies? Get that opinion, is
Good.
that fair?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've asked Teresa Yurek already, haven't we?
Okay.
I'll have to go back and check that, but yeah, I think we have.
But I agree as well with your recommendations, Commissioner Morgan, to increase that to, it actually, in my opinion, could probably be more. I mean, we've given him almost $500,000 in the last 2 years, right, Joe?
Did we, I thought we didn't give the second half of that. I thought
Yeah, we gave
it-
most of it. I don't know if we gave the whole 250, but it's over 400.
Right.
All right.
If you want us to change it, I always listen.
Can you, well, let's make sure we have the right numbers. And
Yeah.
then, because I do think that we can implement. We saw that the, you know,
Yeah.
using Commissioner Boyle's "the sky is falling" push for us to give them, you know, the 650,000 originally to implement that didn't occur. So
Okay, that's good.
And then I guess how we'll do that, Patrick, I think over the last 2 years is, once we go through this list and make our changes to the requested budget, don't we do some sort of a amendment or something like that?
Well, we'll draft the budget and then we'll have the public hearing, and then if there's any changes after that, we'll have to have a second public hearing, but also we need to just draft a proposed budget to submit to the board.
Because I thought when we did this last year at that one meeting, we had that whole list of different amendments that we were going through, depending on where it came from,
Right.
and we voted on those. And so that would be kind of the next step after this meeting, I think.
Make a deal. Commissioner Boyle.
Well, I have a question on just the form. On the first couple of pages, I guess 3 pages, we've got revenue, or excuse me. we've got
Expense.
Expenses. And then on the 4th page.
It's
we've got
revenue.
Revenues. And what I'm curious about is, let's just go, because it's a larger number, to communications 911, and so this shows the revenue projected as 4.6 million. Why wouldn't we add that another column showing revenue so that we get the net gain that we need to come up with? Because what I'm looking at is that we have total revenue of $68,218,000, and we have budget requested of
Yeah, we
131.
kind of come back and do that on the last page.
We do?
Yeah.
So what is it that, or what's the bottom line then on the, let's see, we've got.
Well, the way off the recommendations, we would increase revenues by 859,000 and cut expenses by 731,000. So that, you know, all of a sudden, if you take those two, it's close to $1.6 million.
I don't get it, because the revenue is 68 million, so why wouldn't we take that off?
Oh, that's just the general fund, so, but we do it for the entire budget. So go to that very last page,
Yeah.
the one that says Douglas County revenue,
Okay, let me find it. Where is that?
Last
Yeah, I
page.
see. Okay, yeah, okay.
and then you see, general, the very last column, general fund departmental revenue. That, if you would do all these proposals, you would increase revenue by 633,000 in the general fund.
I'm totally lost, Jody.
So,
You
So
go
Sure.
down
halfway down the page.
general fund departmental revenue,
Yeah,
that line
the
up
last
there to the
number.
right.
over to the right where it says plus 638.
Yeah, that would be the,
632,000.
that would be the revenue increase in the general fund. Then you could take 226,000 from the health center revenue. And if you add those together, you would increase revenues by 859,000.
I thought we were doing 68 million. What happened to 68 million in revenue? Is that my
It's
reading
still
that?
there. I mean, general fund departmental revenue, we just increased the revenue
Oh,
from
is that-
68.2 to
Okay, so the
68.8.
859 is an increase.
Yeah, that's the
So
beta, that's the
revenue
change.
is 245. And that's all funds?
The 859 is all funds.
859, where are you?
Increase of
859. that's-
Total, if you go to the total line.
859,000.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm looking at, the total, adjusted revenue is 245,811,000. So does that reduce what we have to, our expenditure needs to be, our property tax expenses?
Yeah, well, this is where we're solving to kind of get to a balanced budget.
If you increase the revenue, you reduce
spending.
the spending. Well, you're not reducing the spending, but what you're doing is you're increasing your revenue.
Yeah,
So you have
I
more
understand.
money to pay towards what your expenses are, but we're doing a combination of the two. We're increasing our revenue, we're cutting expenses to get to whatever magic number the county board wants to get to.
Okay, so
It
the-
sounds to me like we're getting to above what the magic number is.
Yeah, well,
1.6.
I think it's smart to put some contingency.
Okay, so the
We
requested
don't know.
budget is 174 million, right? $174,452. That's on the second page too. So then if the revenue.
That's the general fund budget, yeah.
Right, but that's where we have to raise property taxes, isn't it? Is that what we pay for that fund out of property taxes?
Well, all these funds are done off property taxes. That's, because not only do we take the general fund, but you take the health center, the health department, and
Well, what's
community
Medicaid,
services.
Medicare, et cetera?
What does what? I'm sorry?
Under health center, I guess.
That's the revenue.
But that's Medicaid and Medicare revenue?
Correct, yeah, et cetera.
Okay, and so that's 30,250,000?
Yep. Well, they submitted a budget of 30,023,000, and I said, well, you know, maybe we should bring it up based on what Dee Dee said for the dish payment. You know, bring their potential revenue up to 30,250,000, which would be a
Let me ask you a question. Obviously, the number 174,452, 174,452,197 on page 2 is not what we need to fund county government next year.
No, that's the total general fund expense budget.
Okay, and so do we reduce that by 248 million or whatever it is, 245,811?
Well, if you go to the last page and you go to the requested 14-15 revenue,
Right.
and you go down, you can see as requested, as submitted, the revenues were 247,452,679 in
Yeah.
the small print, and the expenses were 248,330,478.
Where's the expenses there?
That's adjusted revenue, yeah.
Down below? Okay.
So then you see that line where it says budget shortfall. As submitted, the budget shortfall is $877,799.
Why don't I get this? I don't get this. Because if we have expenses of 174 million and we have revenue of 240.
No, that's only expenses for the general fund. Then go to the third page, Mike.
Okay, well, here's my question. What is the dollar amount that we have to fund as property tax revenue?
Okay, go to the third page
Third page,
and go 14-15 requested budget.
1415 requested, okay.
The fourth column.
341 million.
That's where you see the 174 million. Then below that, you see all the other things funded by property tax.
I'm sorry, I can't
The
follow
very
you.
top line under 2014.
Oh, way at the top,
is
174
174
million,
million.
yeah.
So you go, add those down to like the middle of the page where there's a line that says operations supported by property
Right,
tax.
okay.
And that's 248, 330, 478. So that's the number that we
Yeah.
have to fund.
Okay,
And then we have to come up basically with that amount of revenue to have a balanced budget.
right.
But as submitted, we only had 247,452 million of revenue, leaving us with a shortfall of about 878,000.
Okay.
So that's what we have to solve today, is through an increase in revenue or a cut to expenses.
What's the target again?
$900,000, basically.
Okay,
Can everyone follow that now?
I do now, thank you.
Yeah. Joe, can you, this doesn't show all of them going back to what the request was within their budget, right? We said everybody was gonna get the 1.5% increase for salary
Right.
increases, and then everything, all other spending would be
Flat, right.
flat.
That's how the target was computed, the
That's
budget.
how, but, so if we go down here, so, I mean, just use any of them that are above.
So when it's in parentheses on that last column, that's the amount above their target they are.
Okay.
So it's in parentheses, they're above target by that amount.
And some of them are going to have caveats to it. Like, for example, environmental services 8.9%. Is that increase offset though?
Yes.
Offset by revenue from the land?
Yeah.
So just because it says it's an increase, you have to tell the rest of the story about, is it offset?
And
We
same
need
thing with
information to be able to
communications,
tell
you know.
that story, so we would need, if you take this and we look at those, so just use the county attorneys, they were above 220,090.
Yeah.
So
There is no offset for him.
okay, that right.
There is no story other than he says he needs
Right.
to fight crime. He needs 220,000 more.
Okay,
That's what he told me.
right.
I just like that, that's cool.
And so we need to basically come up with ideas that would reduce our budget by close to $900,000, correct?
Yeah,
But
or
they got some suggestions.
Combination, increase revenues, lower expenses.
and then the last column, like I said, is just the staff's recommendations about kind of how we could get there.
So with the potential adjustments, we're only reducing it by 281,000, so we needed to come up with
But we're
another.
increasing revenues. We're
But
increasing
281,000 in the general fund. But then if you go to the next page, for the total fund, you see the 280. But based on that meeting we had, maybe everybody wasn't there, but we had a meeting with the health center, and they kind of offered up that they could do at least 450,000 in expense reduction. So if you take the 281 from the general fund and the 450 from the health center, all of a sudden you're at 731,000 in expense cuts. So then you only have to get, a couple 100,000
200,000 or plus.
from revenue. But, because you don't want to be exact, you almost need a little bit of a contingency. We threw out some ideas out there that, could give us a little cushion.
So in reality, we need to make some more adjustments to come over $200,000.
Yeah, or I think what we should do is run through this list of potential reductions and get everybody's input. I mean, most of the commissioners have sat through all the budget meetings and should have their own ideas. Like we just did the first one and said, well, we should probably make that 100,000 instead of 50,000. So what I'm really looking is to get your input as we go down these and see if we could get a consensus on what we want to recommend.
Need it.
So the next potential one is, we were just talking about it, was the county attorney, that he came in $220,000 above his target, and that is really a combination of things. He wants to fund 3 additional positions, and I think he was saying there were incremental court cost involved too. And so the idea there is, well, does he need the whole 220,000, or can we cut that a bit?
What's the 3 positions to make up for that grant? Yeah.
Well, that was very unclear about what, because, there were truancy positions there that grant's going away. So this is really 3 positions in addition to those 3 truancy positions.
Yeah, doesn't have anything to do with it.
Oh, I was just gonna say, Joe. I remember he wasn't very clear. He just said basically due to the volume, he wanted a couple more paralegals and then 2 more attorneys, is what he said.
Yep.
But he didn't state where he would put them. Right. So.
But he didn't. They're incremental. So the positions for truancy have not come out of the budget.
Not so they're
I'd probably
in
make
here.
it a 70,000 reduction instead of 100. I don't know.
Why keep it at 100 if what was amount that we gave, that he got for the truancy, he doesn't need that anymore.
That come from didn't it,
You know,
from
you
561
use those
funds?
attorneys for, speaking of attorneys,
Huh?
you use attorneys for these positions.
The learning community grant.
I,
I don't see them.
question if I may on that figure.
But you didn't have the money.
He had
That's-
to come at the end.
Some change in the law that they both in the public defender had to read.
Because there were more
Cases.
cases going to juvenile court,
Oh.
is what his issue
And there's some cases that had to be tried.
There were criminal prosecutions that needed to be retried, that the public defender spoke about, and I'm assuming it would affect county attorney too, but I don't know. The truancy grant, the learning community grant went away well over a year ago.
No, they get
And
none.
561 funds were used then to
Right, and that's still in
fund.
his budget. And
So-
that new law, I mean, the next round, I mean, he just got the funds for this
Right.
round. The next round, he'll not be able to use those funds. So for this budget, he's got that money in his budget.
What's, right,
Next budget.
but the purpose.
So he can reallocate it.
Right.
My question is, he requested a $220,000 increase over what was our recommended target. When we say $100,000 reduction, that's to his increase, so we'd still be giving him like $120,000
Yes.
over our target. Okay.
I'm fine with that.
Other thoughts on this?
I need to look at that one again a little bit and have a little more conversation with Don.
Okay.
I
Okay.
think it should be more.
More than
Uh-huh.
You might need a lot of conversation with Don for that one.
Hey, Doug, if you have something you want to ask, please try to interrupt.
Okay, well, we heard the same thing, that with the law passed in this session of the legislature on truancy, they revised it, so fewer cases will be referred to the county attorneys, not just here, but all over the state. But the question is, how many fewer?
I think at this point from last year, the number from the Millard schools was, at this point last year, before the law, it was like 450 were being turned over at this rate at this time, and now that was down to 200. And I guess their point was is that could actually be decreased even more as time went on and people got adjusted to the changes.
Okay,
Okay.
so I think we're good.
We'll still work on that.
That, because Mariana will work on a little more maybe.
Okay, the next one is capital improvement. You know, when we first did this, we said, you know, maybe we could put 50,000 more into the capital improvement budget. But again, we're having to make some reductions, so, you know, the potential there is to cut it back down to its, the existing level that we've had for the past few years of 620,000, which is 50,000 lower than the request.
Mike,
What are the projects? Do you remember?
That's why I'd like to get Jerry's input on. I'm a little concerned about that number because we have deferred a lot of maintenance over the last several years. And it's gonna pay me now or pay me later, pay me a lot more later potentially.
Okay, well, I'd like to suggest, trying to figure out a way to link any of these buildings we have with the building commission to shove it off onto them.
But it doesn't, we still pay for it.
Well, we do, but we don't pay all of it.
I know, I think this one is like a new roof at the jail, at a section of the jail.
Well, the city has prisoners
I have the minutes if you want me
there.
to
Building
read it.
commission building, maybe.
I was going to say, I thought I listed
I
some
have
of
the
them in there.
minutes
Go ahead.
for public property, but I'm not to where I need to be yet.
That's PJ's.
All right, why don't you find it and we'll come back to you when you.
Okay, I also found the county attorney ones too.
What did he say?
There was a $40,000 increase for filing foreclosure cases because it used to be you could lump them all together, and now because of justice, you have to separate them out.
No?
So that was part of it. You want me to keep reading?
The one, sorry if I just made,
No,
the
it's
100,000 reduction, it's actually maybe, well, because there was 85,000 for the one-time cost of the voice over telephone.
Yeah, I think I
Hey,
cut that one out.
Oh, okay.
I cut
All right.
the voiceover.
But I was just going to say the 120,000 extra would cover the 40 and anyway.
I think the tricky one to understand on the attorney is what happens to that truancy group.
Yeah, I
How are they
don't-
going to be redeployed?
Yeah.
The statement was, I don't think they really answered it, but because
Yeah.
they're filing now now more juvenile cases are going to be filed in juvenile court, that I think they thought it would be
Yeah.
kind of a wash. But do you want me
But
to
next
look?
year, they're still gonna have to, next year they're gonna have to fund those positions. And they're gonna come to us to ask.
But
Probably, yeah.
That's next year. Because if Patrick's saying they all through this year, that's a problem for next year.
But couldn't they just use the existing people to do them?
The existing people are on other money.
No, but in this budget, they're in the expense because
Oh,
this
so
is
you're
just
saying
expense.
for the existing people's load is going to reduce, they can use it on some other work? I mean, it could.
I don't
know.
think it was
That's the
explained.
question that's been unclear.
Yeah, let's get him in here and talk to him, or somebody should talk to Mary Ann, or somebody can get that clarified to Joe.
Okay.
Okay.
Well,
Do you want me to go see who read it from?
All right, next.
So what are we?
Did
So
you
what are we
want
doing with capital
public property?
improvements? Because I had Patrick's concern too. Are we keeping
We're
them?
gonna get a list of them and find
Oh.
out if it's realistic.
All right.
Yeah,
All right.
she'll check the minutes, and then we'll talk to Jerry if
Got
we
it.
need to.
You know, as a practical matter, we can't make any decisions here anyway.
Right.
I mean, it's great to discuss these things. I would rather not cut the capital improvements budget if I can avoid it, but we don't have to make that call
Right,
today.
we don't have to do it
Yeah,
today,
they
you're right. This is
Those
just
we
for
can.
discussion.
It's great discussion, absolutely, but we can't make any final calls anyway, so.
Okay.
Claire's right again.
I think what Joe's
No, but
looking
Claire- I mean,
for is just a consensus.
Right.
Is all.
Sure, give him a little guidance.
Yeah.
Go
But
ahead, Chris.
is it fair to say that if we can come to agreement on a number, that makes the package less? That makes the package easy on that day.
Oh, you darn
Right, I
right.
know.
That's what I'm saying. So I mean,
Easy
yeah,
on
we don't
that
have
day.
to, for those
On
we
the day
can
of
make
the
a
government.
decision. No, yeah,
So
okay,
you don't have let's make a deal at the last minute.
You'd like it to be easier on the last day.
yeah, yeah.
All right, next on our list was emergency management. I mean, I think emergency management has been running very favorable for 2 years in a row. I know last year he encumbered some money, and so he came in at 381,000. Just my gut feel is he could easily live on a budget of 350. I mean, let's just look year to date and see what he's doing. So, year to date for emergency management,
Have you talked to him at all about that?
yeah, I haven't had that discussion with Paul yet.
Well, I mean, yeah, we'll need to have it.
Good idea.
Yes.
But year to date through 11 months, his total expense right now is 252,000
Wow.
off a budget of 377,000. So he's like 67% spent.
So we don't know, without talking, we don't know, is there anything targeted for later, for the
Right.
end of the budget? That's the thing we don't know. So we have to
Sure.
talk.
Sirens or something.
Yeah,
we're still
it would
waiting for
be
that.
related to
Yeah,
science.
we've been waiting, how many, 3 years for the siren stuff?
So,
Yeah.
let's talk to Paul to see. I mean, I certainly agree with Joe on that, contingent on if Paul has some great revelation that.
Yep.
he can reveal.
In his own mind.
So is the next one juvenile court?
Can I mention environmental services first? I'd like to, first of all, what are their, do we know what their payroll is at environmental services? And the other thing is, why can't, is this revenue from Deaf and Ball, is that who that is, or somebody else, other private people that come in? Is that what this is?
Yeah, the dumping, what are
So
they
this
called?
is a-
Not property.
Okay, now this is an adopted budget, is this this is the expense?
Yeah, that's the expense. Let's look at his revenue and see.
Who are we paying $14 million to?
To waste management.
Who manages our land?
Okay,
And then
on the revenue side, can we ask them to?
on
raise-
environmental service requested revenue is 16.4 million.
Okay, let's see.
See, that was Patrick's point, that actually on environmental services, they, it's actually a profit maker for the county, we make a margin on it.
Well, I'm losing that then because, let's see, we're spending, how is that a moneymaker? We're spending 14.9 million, where's the revenue on that?
You go to the revenue sheet for the general fund,
We get about 300,000 more in revenue.
Okay.
and we're actually, they projected their revenue at 16.4 million, and we spend 15 million.
Okay, where is this on the revenue? I'm still stumbling around here.
First page
It would be
down.
much smaller, but operations supported by property tax, no.
On the revenue sheet.
What page, Joe?
What's the page
It's a
number?
sheet that says summary of revenues, general fund.
It's It's our fourth page.
Page 4. I know
And-
it costs more than number of pages, but anyway, I'll write it down. Page 4. Let's see, we got environmental services, okay. And we're saying it's up. Is it up 201,000? No, it's down.
Down 201,000.
Why?
Less volume.
Less
Well,
volume.
why don't, let's have them raise the, we need to raise the rates on them. We don't have to wait for the consumer price index, do we?
We need more volume. We raise the rates, they'll take more into David City and get less volume.
What's that again?
We want to encourage people to dump in our landfill.
Right.
If you raise the rates, that's going to encourage them to go to David City.
So should we reduce it?
No, we want to try to increase people.
What are we doing?
There's a balance
True.
between
What are we
the two.
doing to do that?
Well, we have to talk to Ken about that.
You know what? I don't think we're doing anything.
One of the things we're talking about doing is requiring all haulers to take their garbage. All Douglas County haulers to take their garbage because, you know,
That's
a
been-
billion
that's
is
been
going
long
on.
ago. We've been talking about this for years. The other thing is, I want to tell you, we have civilian sanitation too. We have from our governmental offices. I read that thing every day. The county board meeting, I have to be honest with you. I go line by line on stuff, and I come across civilian sanitation picking up from the health center or someplace. I'm going, geez, how do we have to get this message through? So, I mean, I think I'd like to have
Yeah, but they dump it
some
in our
discussion.
landfill.
We had a community service meeting Monday, and unfortunately we made it, but we discussed a number of issues. Yes, we discussed the issue regarding the landfill, how to increase the life of it, because we'll never have another one in Douglas County. And we also discussed, I received from the NDEQ a letter that I sent to everybody. It was the earlier part of May, I think it was about, I got the letter on May, or it was dated May 6th, so it was probably the 8th. Okay. Where the landfill at 60th, not the landfill, the transfer station at 60th and Q is reapplying or renewing their license. Okay. Now, it's listed as a recycling center, and it is a transfer center.
Right.
I'm planning to write a letter of protest, so it would be labeled correctly. And they're asking for a 10-year extension. We have coming up in about 5 years, our master plan for the waste management system. And I believe that we should not grant them, or the NDEQ should grant them no more than a 5-year extension for that reason. Yes.
You know, I think that's a great plan, but I'll be candid. You know, our environmental services blew it when Sarpy County lost their landfill, and we did not go down there and say, you know, we'll do your windows for this. We never offered them any prices. We've never been competitive. I mean, I know this, I'll be frank, everybody knows this. I was the attorney, before I was on the county board, that brought this company to the county board, and the contract was approved unanimously. I won a state dinner over it, but I couldn't collect by that time I was appointed to the county board. But anyway, the point is that you know, there are opportunities to go out and market, and I've had hands off because of my previous relationship with that client. I just don't feel comfortable lobbying, but I'll be candid about it on the record. We need to be much more aggressive in trying to get construction. We need to get even some stuff that's tough for landfills. Glenwood has one going. I think it failed. I'm not sure. We're just not marketing it. You know, we need to get on eBay and sell our landfill. I think it'd be worth it, to tell you the truth, to hire a marketing firm to go out and get a salesman to go door to door to landfills and go to governments and say, we'll do it for less. But we did miss on Sarpy County, because now they're going to David City.
Well, the problem is we can't do it for less than David City.
Well, I mean, we just talked about reducing rates to get volume bigger and all this other stuff.
Well, we also talked about raising rates though too.
Yeah, I know I was, but
Right.
everybody else says we're trying to be competitive. so
Well,
let's
I
drop
think the
it.
rates are pretty locked in by contract. I mean, I don't think we've
Well,
got much
I know.
flexibility on that.
I'm just saying, I think I'd like to see us do something about it.
Okay.
We did do an interlocal, or not interlocal, the contract that the city did with Deficon was that they have to take their, and you're right, we need to look at all of those areas within Douglas County, and I know I've had conversations with the smaller communities that they would be willing to do the same thing. So we need to kind of ratchet that up a little bit and get a move on it. And the landfill, I mean, when we did that, I mean, it was a landfill for 100 years. So
It should be even better now.
exactly,
It
yeah.
might be 99 now, but yeah, it's this
Well,
right up there.
right,
It's
but
forever.
our tonnage has gone down too.
Right,
That was
right.
based on our tonnage staying at the rate it was. And again, we messed up and we started using tonnage. And so now, there's times where we have a little bit of increase when we do special projects. And I think we probably could do a little bit more of those.
And actually, Brian Norton is concerned about the special projects. And the reason he's concerned about special projects is because they bring in primarily soil and sludge. And we get maybe $2.75 a pound rather than $5 a ton on that. So we don't get a ton. We don't get significant revenue from that. But what it does is it brings in more and more soil to the landfill. Waste management already has an excess amount of soil, and what we're trying to do, this will be discussed at the next community services meeting when it's scheduled, is to get waste management not to use soil for their daily cover, but to use an alternate daily cover. It's soil that requires 4 inches of daily cover with a spray, a latex type spray like they use in Sarpy County. It only requires a 1/4-inch cover. According to Brian, if waste management would use a latex type spray for a cover, it would extend the landfill by 25%. So the time period that the landfill could be alive would be extended by 25%. Waste management is balked at that because they have so much excess soil there, they don't know what to do with it other than to use it for cover. They can't use it for anything else. So that's the more special events you have, the more soil is brought in, and the less chance we're going to get them to use the alternate.
And on the soil and sludge, the average on the special projects is $2.75 per ton, but soil and sludge we're only getting $1 a ton.
You know,
Commissioner Boyle.
I'm interject this. The soil is very valuable. It really is. I mean, that's a big commodity. I'm surprised to hear you say that because they can sell that right now.
It's contaminated. Most of it's
What's that?
contaminated. Most of it's contaminated.
Set it on fire. There are machines, you know, you put it in and you burn the pollutants in a thing like a big cement mixer. You put the dirt in there. It's a huge thing. They're mobile. And you throw the dirt in there and it burns all the pollutants and it comes out relatively acceptable. But anyway, they've done that with contaminated sites. What else did I mention? Oh, what about recycling? Is there any money in recycling? I know it'd be volatile compared to glass and so forth, but you know, do we have a recycling facility at the landfill where we could make some money on that? Why
Bin.
not?
There's a bin you can drop stuff off in.
I just wonder why we don't have a huge deal right there at the landfill. I mean, a recycling thing, it seems like if there's money to be made, we ought to look into it.
Well, you know, and I'll talk to Ken about that. My guess is, I don't want to speculate, but my guess is that it doesn't fall on the right side of the cost-benefit analysis, but I will definitely talk to him about that.
Okay, thanks.
But there was at one time, well, because I talked to the gentleman who wanted to do a glass recycling.
Yeah.
And there was use now, it was a process that was, I want to say, it's either Japan or China that perfected it to use the glass recycling in asphalt.
We have an Omaha.
Yeah, well, that was supposed to be an extension of a new one out at the landfill, and it never went anywhere, but those things, I think, you're right, we need to have those on the table more often in
Let's do a
conversation.
test project with that glass asphalt in Kings Lake. Should we try it?
It's not in ours anymore. It's in the city's zoning
You guys agree.
jurisdiction. No. No, I like my Kings
Not on the
Lake.
agenda. He just got to leave in 28 minutes, and I'm going with him. Let's
All right, let's
moving.
Keep moving then. All right, the next potential reduction that we had was juvenile court. You know, without out-of-home placement, they were running pretty significant favorability this year. They offered to cut $72,000, and I said, you know, they could easily. Why don't we just make it a flat $100,000 that they could cut?
Where's the?
Oh, see, when you take the
Oh,
72
yeah,
and the 27.
together, yep, I agree, I agree.
Okay, keep going, Joe.
Okay. Then
Register deeds.
register of deeds. Yeah, at that point, at this. point,
Oh, yeah.
I had it up in the assessor, I didn't do anything to.
Oh, I was almost looking to share 12,000.
Yeah, well, and this, let's talk about that. That 12,000 is just what they're saying they can't pay towards the Microsoft Enterprise Agreement. But off that 153, there's like 40 from a grant that has offsetting revenues, but there's still that 100,000 that he asked for those two new positions in the crime lab. That, you know, we have to come to a point of view on that. That's what took his budget above target, was creating those two new crime lab positions. And so we should come to a consensus on if we want those in the budget or not.
Have you seen his projections of the offsetting revenue?
I think he says that.
Not what he says, you know, just running numbers ourselves, I guess I should ask. Have we run any numbers on his offsetting revenue? to
Yeah,
make sure
let's
they're
go
realistic?
to the general fund revenue page. So he's saying his revenue is going to go up 385,000.
Who's the he? Which one?
Sure.
Page 4 again.
But some of that is, a lot of that is grant funded thing, but I think he said, we left it with him, as he said, you know, you have a 35% fringe rate, so the real cost of the 100,000 is 135,000, and he's saying he could recap the 100,000 in salary, but not the 35,000 in fringe.
Who is this here?
The sheriff.
For the two new positions.
I think he's already put this price out to the city. I think, isn't this doing work for the city of Omaha, the
It's
crime lab?
assigned to crime. And when I had my discussions with him, I said that it needed to have the exact offsetting revenue. It shouldn't cost the county any more to do that.
And that's what I told him also, when I had my conversation.
I told him to go ahead, I didn't care anymore.
I know you did.
There's no support for merging anything, so they're stumbling through something, so I said, fine, go do it.
You're just wrong.
So anyway, I think the 13,000 on the Microsoft Enterprise Agreement is a no-brainer. Every other department has agreed to pay it, and so then the real question is, you know, what position you want to take on those two crime lab new positions.
Well, I think go ahead and do it. It's my personal feeling. I think the war is over. The other thing I'd suggest is that something that really needs a lot of approval from Commissioner Borgeson. And I know what she's going to say, but you know, there's 129 employees, I think, of that department, and they have 91,000 people in Douglas County are subject to their. They protect 91,000 people. And in spite of the fact that 91,000 is constantly dropping, the number of deputies goes up, and all the pay, everything else goes up, and you can really never get a territorial description of where they drive. I mean, one time they showed me all the way down to the river, which kind of rings.
They got to drive down to their boats.
Pocket Hill, like this.
I hope they'll come down to my farm if I
Well,
need them.
yeah.
They have 3 boats, you know.
Yeah, so I'm go by the other day.
So anyway, I guess
Yeah.
what I would propose to Mary Ann really likes especially is that we kind of take a look at it and say, why don't we tax the people in the county who live in the county, those 91,000 people getting the services? Why don't we raise a mill levy to cover the expenses of the sheriff's office, basically, except for the civil process and some other things? Take some thinking to do it. But it's a user pay theory, and I think we ought to do it. You know, and of course, Mary Ann says, well, in that case, then where all the crime is committed, you should raise taxes, you know, for the Omaha police or I don't know, whatever. They don't. But I mean, let's take away that I'm paying twice. All of us who live in the city are paying twice. And when, like I've said before, 1,000 times you dial 911, the sheriff's deputy never comes to my door. And so, I mean, of course, I proposed years ago merging the two. And the World Herald said we could, I favored the sheriff's office, believe it or not. Maybe, but anyhow, so we don't want an elected official running our law enforcement, which is kind of interesting. But I think we ought to do some things bizarre. We ought to be planning ahead and, do something. Make a metropolitan police force out of this or something. This is not efficient.
Well, we have to start to have those talks with the city.
What's that?
Have the talks with the city and try to do it.
To do
And
what?
why don't you initiate it with some council
Yeah, I'll call
members?
Marty.
There's more, I will tell you, there's more, everybody wants to focus
And if you have
on
a
the patrol,
meeting
but there's
outside.
more to what the sheriff does, and I think that that's what we need to kind of
We have to
ratchet
pay
down
for that. We have to pay for that.
in his budget. And the crime labs, I went through the minutes, and I never did receive the information that I requested as far as what the actual detailed amounts were that we were getting from these interlocal agreements that we have with the crime labs.
Not much.
And so my point when he was talking about, I'm all for the thing they're trying to do with the crime lab, but I don't want it at the cost of the county. And so we need to go back to the table, and he might have laid that on the table for the city, but it's not a done deal until it comes by this board. So I think we need to have further discussions about that. And I sent you all, or talked to you all, whatever I did with, we have sex offenders, and I was approached by one who had a question about where they have to register, which I did not realize that they all had to go to 156 in Maple. There's some who have to go monthly because they're transient. Some can go every 90 days, some can go semi-annually, and some can go annually, depending on what their level of classification is. The person who approached me about it, there's no bus that goes out to 156 in Maple, and they were, it was costing them over $40 every time they had to go out and register. And $40 may not seem like a lot to us, but it's a lot to that person.
$40 is a lot to me.
Huh?
$40 is a lot to me.
I know. And so I asked if we could have a site on the east side of 72nd, because again, I mapped it out. I asked for a map, zip codes, where they were. I showed you guys where the majority of them are. And I was kind of chastised that I was not doing this or they were not doing this to make it convenient for sex offenders to register. Well, there's kind of a public safety issue that we should make it accessible, because then more would register. So again, the comment was though that they needed to see what resources they had, and they probably have to fill another position that they had open down here at the courthouse to do that. And I said, if the person out on 156 is doing it 5 days a week, and you move to maybe east of 72nd 3 days a week, that person can just come to the 3 days a week location and then the 2 out there. No, they were going to keep the 5 day a week open out at 156. That's not where the people are. The people are east of 72nd. So I don't know where it is. They're still looking at it and still, but I'm not going to be supportive of adding additional dollars in that budget for that either. When again we have locations, which I think somebody said at the criminal justice meeting, Mark Foxhall,
Yes.
which was actually the site that was first talked about when we started talking about it, and they went to the courthouse site, but now it's back to the criminal justice center. So again, I think we have to, I understand it's their offices, and sometimes we just have to push and talk a little bit more, and I'm just not willing to add any more money for these things, nor the crime lab piece either of it. I think he needs to find the revenue to offset that happening.
I think Commissioner Morgan has it.
I was gonna ask Marcos, maybe to check to find out if the sheriff is all, in other cities, states, does the sheriff always do the courtrooms? If not, and we have some examples in Iowa, Illinois, or somewhere, Kansas, whatever, we ought to look at legislation, and if we wanted to contract that out to someone, or some way of looking at that, we might try to see, because there could be a tremendous savings there. Now, I don't know that other commissioners feel as I do, but I think it's always nice to look at other options in case. Okay?
You got
and
it.
And then you can just
Yeah.
let me know and say, nope, the sheriff doesn't, in every 10 states that I looked at around us. Perfect.
Well,
Commissioner Boyle.
I agree totally with PJ. And I think a real candidate for taking this over is the building commission. You already have a security building. And
Right.
And it's run by the sheriffs. I mean,
We contract with the
if I-
sheriff.
Yeah. Years ago, you know, they had a separate one, and I kind of did my deal, and they contracted.
We do
Yeah.
that for the citizens.
This is really, it would be helpful to get the building commission.
And maybe someday you might even be part of the building. commission. I doubt it, but there's always a chance.
I thought you had the lead now, PJ.
Yeah. I support you to give it a shot.
The other, I guess, you know, I think what we have to do is look at some things legislatively, and maybe what we need to do is look at legislatively changing who sex offenders report to. I mean, this is really not acceptable for him to be saying, I'm not gonna do this. And
We didn't say that.
Well, it's not any favor. I mean, it's not like we're trying to coddle him or anything.
No,
It's just a matter of
that's
practicality.
right.
I mean, I frankly think, you know, if we get a nice, reasonably sized office in the auto center at 84th and Dodge would be a great spot, maybe. I mean, I just think there's all sorts of possibilities, you know, where we're renting space. Anyway, don't want to drive it around, but I agree with Mary Ann too. Something needs to happen. There's something I'd like to go back to here on county court probation. I wonder why we couldn't have, you know, I don't know who's in probation at county court for what, but I suspect a district court could handle those just as easily as county, and we're not paying for that apparently. Or we could expand our contract with United Way. I'd just like to look into that. I don't know who would do that. I'd like to have somebody in our staff look into what kind of offenders are in county court probation. Can you check that out?
It's just called adult probation.
It'd be
that's
all the
I know about
misdemeanor.
it.
All
But what about the
misdemeanors.
state?
DUI.
Yeah, probably a lot of DUIs.
I'm sorry?
Probably a lot of DUIs and people who are,
Well, what's district court do the same thing, don't they?
well, for the felonies.
Well, I don't know. I'd like to look into trying to, you know, merge that together and let the district court take over those things, or if we can.
But-
United Way handles DUIs too.
But isn't it all under, is it all under adult probation? What, no matter which court? Or-
We get two charges for probation. We got juvenile probation and adult probation, which is
Right.
the same as county court. I don't know the exact details other than that.
Can you find out, can you find out and see what?
I guess I don't understand. What do you mean it's the same for county court? County court, you get adult.
It's called county court / adult probation.
Right. Well, that sounds like it's adult probation.
Is that, and then you have district court / adult probation? Okay, so it's
Really?
all under the county court.
Gee whiz. Take a look at that and see if you can't shove that off into Heineman before he leaves.
To who? Oh.
What's the expense?
I don't
What do we
understand the
pay?
question.
Now, I know we provide the space for probation.
Right.
We provide some equipment, furniture for probation. But what is this number here for
Yeah.
for probation,
Yeah.
$132,000?
Can't cover anything.
What is that expense? I guess that would be my question. What are we
What are we getting for that?
including in the $132,000?
Can't be rent.
It could be rent.
All that? Is that a little amount of money for rent and payroll? Who's
Not
paying
payroll.
that?
Not paid, we
Not
don't
paid.
pay.
That's not
So
payroll.
the rent
Rent
is
is
being
paid.
paid out of their budget, so we're putting money in their budget so they can pay rent to the building.
I would guess.
Rent, office furniture,
equipment.
computers,
Okay. So I didn't realize, okay, so the rent. is
everything
paid
but
out-
payroll.
And that's all out of their budget towards,
Same thing as juvenile.
Yep.
okay, rather than us paying the rent directly out of our own budget.
Well, it's better if it goes to the building commission. Anyway. But I'd be curious about who's adult probation? Is that adult probation?
That is, right?
Yes.
So even any adult, even if it was through district court, would go to
Yeah.
that. Okay.
That's county court probation is the probation on higher level over by the county attorney's office.
And that's what it's called, county court probation?
County court / adult probation.
And
that-
don't-
yeah.
Are these the people who have offices in Redmond Avenue and South Home Hall too?
Yeah, we pay that rent.
Who's that?
That's state.
the state.
Yeah,
We pay
that's
those-
the
we
state
we
too.
pay probation because on Redmond, we pay their probation.
That's gonna be part
Yeah.
of it. Right.
So that's part of it.
That's
That's
part of
42nd,
it, yeah.
42nd in
That's
Redmond, we
probably
pay
the
that
I guess
lease.
I
Is
didn't
that
realize
right?
it came out of that budget.
Yeah, this is where it would be.
42nd in Redmond, we pay that lease.
I
Yeah.
know we pay for that, but I can't believe this is all it takes to rent all these spaces.
We have to have Gary.
Yeah, I'll find out.
Okay, good.
We're not paying a lot at 42nd and Redmond. That's not a real high rent district.
43.
No, it's definitely not.
Is it?
They want to get out of there.
Oh, yeah, they've wanted out since we got
They
in.
wanna get out of there.
Okay.
Okay, let's run through these again. The next one is
They get their exercise running to their cars.
records imaging. You know, we requested that she came in about $10,000 over her target, and I don't think she's done a lot of budgets before. So my recommendation there is just put her back to target, which is 9901.
Can I ask a question? I'm sorry.
Commissioner Rogers.
Did we just fill that position?
Yeah.
Well, relatively, about a year maybe.
But
See,
she was in the
She's been
department.
there for.
Okay, my deal is, and I had this talk before, and it went too hot about it, but in some places, like in Maryland, they do this stuff at the jail. And, I think we should look at that and put a freeze on doing anything beyond what we're doing, so when this person retires and plans for it, because when I went to Montgomery County Jail and walked through there, they are doing this imaging stuff, and I think it's this is one of the areas where I think we should look at it.
The issue
Patrick.
the issue with that is, and I don't necessarily disagree, but the issue is that just for purposes of location, and so much of what's recorded down there comes from this building, from the city and the county. So it goes down, just down the elevator, and then we have all that storage room on sea level where we can store the boxes, the things that need to be microfilmed, versus the transportation issues of delivering it back and
Well, no,
forth.
I think you can get somebody that's on community correction, and do
And
it
then
like
where
a
you
training
store it
opportunity.
correct. All of that.
Clown.
Well, I mean, it's not about the storage; it's about the manpower. It's not about the storage, the manpower that we spend on that. I think you could do it. Now you have to talk it through with Foxhall, but some of those people on community corrections that need some deal to do with that. I think you can work that out. It's not about so much the location, but the fact that the jail is using it as a training opportunity, and they're not subbing that out.
Well, let's maybe we can have a committee meeting and talk about it, because I just don't want to make too many assumptions without having
No,
Terry.
and I just want to look at. No, I'm not saying assumption. I think it needs to be looked at real hard.
Okay.
What are we microfilming? What's coming down the elevator?
A lot of court records,
Registered deeds.
registered deeds, such.
Okay, well, why are we still microfilming? I know the state law. Why don't we change the state law? I mean, what about all this Google slop with the clouds? I mean, look at the clouds up there.
We did.
The microfilm lobby is.
Let's just get Pokemon.
No, I'm assuming that's it. That's the only reason I
I
can
know,
be
but
stopped. It's
that's
the-
like, why aren't we hand copying these then? They're just about inexpensive.
Commissioner Barnes.
We took that and tried to get it on CDs, media, because it was cheaper.
Yep.
But because the life of that medium, whatever they
Oh,
call
it
it.
wasn't considered permanent or something.
Right.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't.
Didn't meet their definition.
You know too, don't you?
It doesn't last.
So our legislative initiative failed, but then we did talk another time, and I think you were you were on the board then, when we said, and it was when we were talking about a hiring process, but it was the contracted out, because there's people who you can ship your stuff to and then microfilm it and then
Right.
store it, and I actually think there was one in Utah at the Mormons.
Carbon. What's it called?
There's one in Kansas City.
We ship these
so
to
we
the
talked.
salt mines.
To the
though,
salt
don't we?
mines.
Kansas,
Yeah.
In Hutchinson.
Kansas they have.
Yeah, and Hutch,
Yeah, so, I mean, this has been talked about many, many times.
Well, can't we set fire to some of them and then, oh no, excuse me.
Oh.
Show that they can be destroyed.
But it is a legislative initiative that I think we don't give up on,
Yeah.
that we continue,
They
and
just gotta
that's
go
been
away.
how many years now, so maybe the life of the
New
CD's
people,
been
new
tested,
people. Yeah.
so that it says it's a permanent media.
You know, and we ought to get somebody from Google or something like that to
Uh-huh.
come down and talk in favor of it instead of these people from Arkansas coming up and saying that we have the microphone.
You can scan it into the cloud.
Yes.
Why
could.
not?
I know. you
Okay.
can.
Although I think in the meantime, I mean, we're only talking $10,000 here, but I mean, we have 4 people quietly doing a lot of efficient work down there, and it's great to work at alternatives, but until we have one that we can actually pursue, I think we've got to maintain the status quo.
Yeah.
But what was the 10,000, Joe?
That's just bringing them back down to what their target was.
Okay, yeah, fine.
And Claire, I want to know. I'm just saying push long term. Look, I'm definitely not saying it comes immediately. I think it's a deal where we ramp up to.
It's an intriguing idea that's definitely worth pursuing.
Okay, then there were no more potential adjustments on the second page, so that was it for the general fund. And I'll go to the third page where we'll talk all the funds, and there's basically 2 items for discussion there. One is the health center, which we have $450,000 on, and that was based on our discussion with the health center folks. And of that $450,000, if I remember, 200,000 of it was from
Sorry, Joe, what page are you on? I'm always-
page 3.
It's the number. It says page 1, but it's really the 3rd page.
Oh, okay, all right. Page 3. Okay, now where are you in
Just
all these
about
columns?
4 lines down, Mike.
From the top,
Yeah.
health center? Okay. Thank you, sorry.
And if I remember this number, this was what, 250,000 from not repairing the laundry
I was
machines.
saying it was 200.
200 from the laundry machines, and then the 200 from that, and then I think there was 150 from closing down PBX, and I think there was 100 there from things that they could do different in the community mental health center.
Or move, yeah, community mental health center, yeah.
But this does mean that we have to follow through, like with the PBX, if we approve this
Right.
budget. We are not budgeting then for the PBX
That's
for
right.
next year.
That's right.
Right.
Starting
What?
Starting in July.
Yeah.
No, that's only
Oh,
half
no,
the year
half.
savings.
Thank
Right, right, one full year.
So-
Commissioner
Half the
Webb.
year savings.
What takes the place of PBX? Do we have to have some physical thing on our premises, or is it
What?
just direct dial everything?
It's that tree that, you know, where you,
It's an automated system, but at the end of the tree, there is a press 0 for an operator. If you
Okay,
want to talk to a
so you
person.
call that number, where is it? Is it just someplace at Quest or someplace, or wherever they are?
Still,
Centrally? What?
no. Eventually, no, I think they'll move it over here through .com, through
There's
that
actually
main
some
phone
physical
system.
equipment?
There is now in the health center.
No, but get
There
rid of
will.
that. We're getting rid of that, and so we're gonna have this.
Yeah, I think it'll be a router.
What's it called? A router? So it'd be a router setting that as a little piece of thing?
That it would be tied into the main phone system here.
I think initially they're talking about still having one person at the health center
Right.
to make sure that
During business
everything
hours.
works appropriately during business hours, and then
Okay, so anyway, it's and what's that gonna cost, do we know?
Like 30, 40,000.
30, 40,000 bucks, and that's just a piece of, that's a router that we put over here on .com? Okay. We have to have that, we can't just have direct dial? Can we cut that? Do we need all the phones? I mean, I don't have a phone in the office, you know, I have everything that comes in, it's referred to my cell phone, or else they take a message and I want to get it transferred. And I hope what they're saying is, when I ask them anything, they say just a moment, I'm gonna transfer them to
Yeah.
my cell phone. And I don't know why, with all that, we're paying $140,000 a year for cell phone service. I don't know why those people can't take telephone calls at that cell phone, instead of having one sitting on their desk. I just don't think they don't need it, it's redundant. And, I think frankly, all the commissioners ought to give up our phones too. I don't think we need them. I think we've all got cell phones, so when I get a phone call, just transfer it from Kai, just transfer it to your cell phone. And if you don't want to answer it, you know, when it comes in on me, it says Sharon's name. And so poor Sharon never gets her call answered. If I'm busy, I see Sharon, I don't answer it because I figure it's somebody calling through the switchboard. So then you get a voicemail and call them back. But I had my calls placed on the switchboard because I don't want my cell phone not getting out. Anyway, that's my thought.
Commissioner Rogers.
You know, I'm not totally opposed to it.
What's that?
If you can look into it, I mean, you know, I've just always thought you switch to a cell phone. You know, people choose to still use it, but that'll be it. You get your email through there. That'll be your mobile email. You'll be able to stuff like that. I mean, we'd have to come up to that, but I think that's worth the talk. And you just pay a cell phone bill. You cut the other stuff, and you get, you know, email access and some other stuff that comes with that. It may not be an Apple. It may, you know, if it matches with Google, it may be a Samsung Google phone, which I'd agree wholeheartedly. That would allow me to just use my phone for personal stuff and not have to do work and all that through it. And you treat it just like you do your phone here. I think it's a good long-term
I get
discussion.
all my email on my phone. I can, believe it or not, I get all my county and everything on here. And I have it all. I can't read a lot of things because I can't because of the size of the thing. So then I call Karen and say, please send that out in email form. But I mean, generally, I mean, it's really, you know, it's my personal phone. The government doesn't pay anything for it. I don't want to, although I'm listed as having a phone number here, which I don't understand.
Because of your office.
Why? I don't have a phone in there.
People call you as an elected official.
Yeah, but I don't have a phone. I don't have a physical phone, but I'm getting charged $43. The county is $43 a month for some number that doesn't exist. Huh?
You could have a phone in there. You're being charged with the line.
Well, I shouldn't be.
Yeah, it's already hardwired.
We're paying for a fax line in my house that I said years ago I don't use anymore. I'm going to bring my machine into Eric Carlson and put it on his desk and say, I'm done, take it
I
away.
brought mine in too a long time ago.
Yeah.
But I think we had to look into this. This is a major expense, $140,000. And we really ought to be telling people who have the convenience of a paid county cell phone that this is where your calls are coming. If you don't want it, then give up your cell phone and cut the expense. But I don't think it's unreasonable. If you have a cell phone, and you can shut it off, or you can do something to make sure that you're not getting calls at night from people, you know, somehow.
You can experiment with it in just the board and
Yeah,
see how it
Patrick
goes.
shuts his off. I just screen him.
Well, yeah.
Wherever that 1,000 number comes in.
No, when it gets to Mike, it's.
I have to tell you that the number I have is really pretty funny. I don't know if I can pull it up. I'm not too good at this. But some of the stuff is really pretty funny on the calls that I get. Here, let me put in Sharon. You can hear the number when it rings. Poor Sharon. Let's see, I don't want to call her, but you do have to. Oh, here we go.
Oh, Claire. I mean, I like to throw out there, if you're going to cut the PBX deal, I'd rather use it for some experimental, like the conversation we've had about.
That's a nice one.
That's Sharon. Don't answer.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
No, I mean, it's just a thought.
Sorry.
If we're going to save some money, I
Show
mean,
and tell.
because right now we look like we're ahead of schedule in regards to what you proposed cutting a little bit. If we cut the PBX deal, I'd rather take that money and experiment with the office going paperless. I mean, at 30 and see where it goes, something that really gets us some. Because I don't think you can shoot your idea into the full population. I think the board experiments it with it for a while and see how it flows. Let 7 people or the whole office go with it and see what it goes.
See that, or we tell everybody who's got a cell phone paid by the county that we're not paying for it anymore.
Well, I think that puts it in a good
Usually you smoke signals. Out there in the country.
Oh, only if I'm where I can smoke my cigars.
Okay, well.
So anyway, I think, you know, we had met with Dee Dee and Turville and Sherry, and I think this 450 was basically agreed upon with them.
Yes, it was.
And so the only other thing that's on there that I'm going to talk about is a discussion I had yesterday with Bernie Brosnahan. And he said, you know, I hit your target, but it all got used up in employee salary and benefits, and my actual discretionary money to go to veterans is actually down, you know, $6,000 or $7,000. I said, yeah, that's probably not right. So that's why I have kind of penciled in there plus $10,000. I would recommend that we give the veterans another $10,000, and Bernie said that he would put that towards their assistance programs.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Commissioner Works.
And Commissioner Rogers and I probably should have another conversation about this, because I don't know with the state and Bernie, having a conversation with them, that I don't think we're drawing as much down from the federal government as we should be, and I don't know, our state organization needs to get a little bit more involved in trying to figure out how to do that. And so, we'll look into that, but I'm agreeable to increasing that by 10, but I also think that there's money out there that we need to be maybe trying as a county board to get a little bit more of, as from the federal level.
Yeah, I think it would be good if Bernie had someone he could work with who kind of knows the ins and outs, how to get that money.
Right.
You know, I mean,
Right.
and I think there's probably a way to do it.
We can ask.
What about Ashley?
Huh?
Ashley Strader? She does the grants, doesn't she?
But who's the state, I talked to the state guy out there.
It's Hilbert, eh?
Mahoney. Who is it?
Name John Hilbert?
No, he was, he's the big director, but
Oh.
this was the state guy over all the veterans officers. The administrator.
John Hogan?
No, he's the big guy, but there's another level that this guy was at the Mahoney meeting with the veteran service officers. Anyway, I'll find out his name, but that's who we talked to about it, and the conversation was maybe NACO needed to piggyback off of national NACO and have a state
Task
veterans
force.
committee that tried to go after those dollars more aggressively.
Commissioner Kraft.
Christine, wasn't that part of your former job, was grants?
Catherine?
Catherine.
Yes, criminal justice grant.
But this would
Feel bad about it, though. It's
this would be the state making a stronger deal to draw down this. This is not
Right.
a
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, it's our state being more aggressive.
Well, which is sure worth pursuing, but in the meantime, we give them a few more
Yep,
bucks for the
absolutely.
veterans.
Okay, now let's switch to the fourth page, which is summary of revenues general fund.
Page 4.
Got it. Thank you, Jerry.
And so some of these I just tracked, you know, like go to the first one, emergency management this year. Their plan revenue was $75,000. As of May 9th, they had received $103,000 already. And, you know, they kept their revenue number flat at $75,000. So I said, you know, based on the way they're tracking, you know, why not just make it $100,000 and keep it flat to actual?
Where do we get revenue from emergency management?
He gets grant revenue.
Yeah, you want to see grants and
Okay.
things. Have you bounced that off of Paul? Does he think that's a reasonable
I
figure?
haven't asked, I can ask him that.
It'd be nice to do so before we make that comment.
Okay.
Seems reasonable.
Clerk of the district court, kind of the same thing. They had a plan revenue of $1,646,000. As of you know, May 9th, they were at $1,568,000. Their requested revenue was $1,581,000. So you know, I've just in the past couple years I've watched them. They've been very conservative. We have also all the last 2 years we've exceeded their revenue there pretty comfortably. So I said, you know, keep it $1,625,000, which would be 21,000 below where it was this year, and you know, that's a net increase in revenue of $43,200. You know, whenever I talk to John Friend about it, he's always conservative, but the way they really track is they all seem to beat their numbers. So I don't think that's very heroic to make it $1,625,000.
Okay.
Next is district court, and again, they came in at $1,050,000, but you know, when I first did this, they were at $1,007,000, but then we tracked them, and there seemed to be a little issue there with how they were recording some grant money. So I think the $1,006,000 was overstated. So I don't know. I said $1,002,000. That might be a little aggressive, but you know, we could make it $1,001,000, which I think would be very comfortable, which would add $95,000. Based just on how they track. Let's see. Same thing, county court. At first they were going to be at 56,000. They were way below. They made about 19,000. He brought it even further down to 14.
What about us over here?
No.
You want this? Yes. I just figured
You
that.
need
He's the one that requested.
He just came over and took it.
That's Mike's fan. But only Mike's
Oh, you
fan.
move it here.
No,
because
I
he's
yield
the
to
one that
seniority.
originally requested fan to begin with.
I yield to seniority.
Senility? Senility?
Seniority. I yield to political seniority.
Now, you should have seen Marco's face on this when Patrick went over there and took the fan away. I can see it.
I said what he couldn't say to you.
It's a budget cut for you two.
And this is why we should have adjourned at 2:30 when
Yeah.
people left.
Stealing fans. Anyway, so that one for county court is just bring it up to 20,000. That's $5,500.
Yeah. I
Ju-
heard that, Patrick.
Juvenile court the same way. Like I say, everybody over in the courthouse seems to be very conservative with their revenues, but if you look at their trend, if you look at their actuals, they're always beating their projections. So these are kind of just small increases. So that's why I'm recommending them.
Okay.
Then miscellaneous. I mean, this year we're going to do 100,000, but you know, Chris comes off next year, so we're not going to get the same amount of reimbursements. I think we initially put it at 45, but I would just make it half of it, add 5,000, make it 50,000. I think we'll track okay on that.
Not a revenue generator anymore, Chris.
Hey,
Those were the
4 good
days.
years.
Purchasing, same. You know, they're going to do 160,000 this year. I said let's keep it flat. So that was 10,800. So the big one here is actually the treasurer's office, and this is something that they've been having problems projecting their revenues in a very meaningful way. So as of Friday, let's see where they were at. You know, they again tend to kind of underestimate their revenues. So as of Friday, the treasurer's office was at 11,200,000. They were at about 90% of their projection of 12,500,000. So you know, my guess with the whole month to go, you know, they should come in around 12 million, for at least 12 million for this year. So they projected about 12 million. I think we could do a little better than that. You know, I don't know. So, you know, first I had 12,200,000, maybe 12,100,000, but I think there's definite upside there.
Okay.
Let's see, next was general equipment. They took it out this year completely, even though they're gonna make around 30,000 in revenue this year, so I put it in at 20,000. I guess I could check back with them and see why they didn't put anything in there, even though they made 30,000 this year.
What is that, Joe?
I'm not exactly 100% sure what that represents. Patrick, do you know?
Well, no, I don't. We'll have to find that out.
Records imaging, you know, I basically kept it flat. They were kind of tracking right on to be around the 9,000. So like I say, people tend to be conservative on revenue. Outside office expense was just a couple $1,000. And risk insurance, I feel comfortable with that. Year to date, we're at over 500,000, so bringing that up to 450, I'm very comfortable with.
Going back to the general equipment, my only guess is that's revenue from selling equipment at auction, possibly. Is that general equipment through? Do you know what department that's through?
It's its own.
That's managed by purchasing.
So my guess is it would be
So
selling. It would be revenue from auction.
Auction revenue from auction. Yeah.
So my guess is maybe that they were anticipating that. I don't know. That you usually have an annual auction. So
It's scheduled this year. I saw the notice. They're going to have it again.
I'll talk to Eric Carlson about that. Sorry.
So, and then the only other revenue piece we talked about was when we met with the health department. Dee Dee said she could defer the receipt of the dish payment, bring it out of June this year where they don't need it so much because we're having strong tax revenues, and take that amount, which is a couple $100,000, and book it in July.
That's the health center.
The health center, I'm sorry. Yes, you're right, sorry. I'm sorry, health center. That was Dee Dee's recommendation.
Mr. Blow?
Are we still paying them something monthly?
Who?
The health center.
What do you mean paying them?
Well, there was always a figure thrown around about $1 million.
Yeah.
Are we still doing that?
Yeah.
Okay, hopefully we're on track to get that to be diminished or disappear someday or not?
It's never gonna totally disappear.
It'll never disappear, but we're trying to reduce it. Certainly, we're making efforts to minimize it.
You know, I wonder, and I hate to bring this up again, but what is the per diem cost of the resident, including everything? I mean, the bonds, the electricity, the water, the gas, the medical care. I mean, I would suspect that it's off the map. You know, I hate to bring this up again, but it just seems like it's way off the map. And I think, you know, when I hear about Mr. Tourville planning on cuts and things, I think that means contracting out everybody but his office. You know, I mean, that's what the pattern has been. I remember when the fellow that worked there for 50 years left, that they hired 2 people to take his place and weren't paying benefits to him, you know, which I think is horrible. I mean, I think as a county, I think we have a responsibility to pay, if we can, living wages, which we don't, but certainly don't hire people if we don't pay benefits. That just throws them into a tizzy. It's bad enough for people. The government should not be doing that. So I hope that he isn't doing that. And I don't see any other way for him to go, but you know, farming out everything. And I think we should let him know that, at least I hope we don't think that's a good plan. I think we you know, at the same time, what do we do with the facility when it's costing us, you know, $512 a day per person? How do we sustain that? I mean, how does that compare with Hallmark Center or somebody? There's 2 other 5-star facilities in this region, probably more close by, but there's 2 in Douglas County, Omaha. And you know, what's their cost per person per day? I don't know.
You have to look at the patient mix though too. Really,
Yeah,
Lancaster
that's true.
Manor was the best comparable to us because of the patient mix.
Yeah.
Commissioner Borgerson?
Well, and I think that for the first, I mean, if you look at those recommendations, really that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
We're following the study
Right.
to which we paid for to come
Yeah.
up with this, and it's gonna take, like what we're potentially saving that they talk about you know, when they come up to the board with those updates.
Yeah.
We're taking a little amount of, well, not a little, but we're taking that amount and shifting it to do a recommendation
Okay.
that will increase our chances to get additional revenue. We're using some of that to, when we did the switch to, from assisted living to short-term rehab, which will bring in additional revenue. So there's a projection out there that, and I do like Jim's mentality that, you know, it's a far-reaching goal of trying to be self-sustaining, but reach for it. And whatever, now we see that we get up and started, the electronic health records, the short-term rehab, we can start tracking how much more of that revenue, and then that's gonna start reducing the amount of tax burden that we have. The recommendations of outsourcing, I mean, we looked at outsourcing the management and sought not to do that. These other ones are just the next level of recommendations that they said to look at, and so we're looking at them, but I think it's not gonna happen overnight, we knew that, but I would like to know what it is today, cost per patient, both at, long-term care, the short-term rehab, and then community mental health center, just so that we stay on track with that.
Well, short-term rehab hasn't opened yet. We won't have
Yeah, but
those
they'll
things.
have a cost, what's it's gonna cost per patient.
Okay, Commissioner Boyle.
A couple of things pop in my head. One of them is today I saw a bill for $30,000 plus for OPPD for the health center, and I assume that's just for general electricity. Are we planning on expanding the geothermal system to the health center? I don't know. I mean, utilities have to be out of the roof in that building, but I don't know if we are or not. But $30,000.
I don't think it works well in a high-rise building like
Okay.
that.
Well, anyway, it's $30,000 this month OPPD for something. I think we ought to be looking into solar to generate some electricity or something. I really think we ought to be looking ahead to some other alternative power source, particularly with the rates, and they are going to go up, particularly if President Obama gets rid of coal. But anyway, yeah. Claire, are you having a heart attack? Anyway, the other thing is that I noticed. I asked Joe what we were spending for contracted employees at every department and elected official. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'll just ask you, do you remember what the figure was for okay, well, I want to say it was $800,000, maybe.
Sounds right.
So they're spending $800,000 at the health center for contracted employees, and I don't know what they're doing. I mean, it seems to me if it's $800,000, that's a pretty big number, which means that we ought to look at hiring employees. We probably wouldn't need as many.
I think that's the temporary services, right?
Well, it is temporary services, but what are we doing with all that temporary service? I mean, is it, you know, we ought to be, I don't know, it seems like we ought to be thinking of another approach. That's a lot of money.
But that is our pool at the
Is it our
health
own?
center.
Is it our own
Yes,
pool?
Most of it.
we created our own pool for that very reason.
Is it still operating, and you know what it
Yes.
is?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
These are typically employees that don't need benefits and are not interested in working full-time, but are otherwise qualified. And we utilize our own pool as best we can, and then when that doesn't meet our needs, then we go out into the private sector.
But isn't that the pool that we're worried about the issue? If they work more than 28 hours,
That's
we will
one of
have to
them
give
we're
them
looking at.
benefits?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
So we just have to.
That's a part of Obamacare.
Can we found check this out? Who's Catholic at this table? Check out.
Check out whether or not I'm a recovering Catholic.
So am I. Can we establish an order of nuns? Can we get one going to work at the hospital? I mean,
Sure.
come on.
I know a few.
There aren't any left.
Oh, I have to establish an order. Come on.
Oh, okay. We can do that.
We have to do like the pink
Do
sisters.
you want to
down
join
there.
us?
You want a building named after you? How about an order of nuns, the Boyle nuns?
Boyle's Goodwill Building.
Where were we at?
Well, anyway, okay, that's great. I appreciate the information.
Well, and on the health center too, you know, when we talk about this, I wrestle with the word subsidy, but the money we're putting into it, we still have not been able to break out the figures yet. I mean, some of that's going to the youth center. You know, long-term care is only about $2 million out of that $12 million. About 6 of it is community mental health center, and much of it is just unallocated costs that we've got to get nailed down better. And hopefully that will, you know, that was an HMA recommendation. Judy says she's working on it. I hope we get there soon.
Okay, thanks. Thanks for the information.
So in summary, you know, the numbers rolled up 900,000 short. I think to be safe, we really have to come up with $1.5 million of expense reductions or revenue increases. You know, we went over some examples today that could get us there. It's June 2nd, so we have to make these decisions this month to vote and decide which ones we want to do to give us a balanced budget.
I say go with your recommendation.
Did you say extensions?
No, I said go.
Oh.
I say go with your recommendation.
I'm sorry, I said only extensions.
Yeah, it would be, for me, it would be capital improvement, and talking to Jerry about that, and then the other one was, just like, for example, records, imaging, Paul Johnson, just to see
And if
they're
those
okay.
don't work, then you better come up with some other ones.
Right.
Then I'd go back to a 5-member county board.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
I would be for that.
Well, I'm up, so now you're down to 6.
That's right.
Commissioner Boyle.
I can
You know,
add way more to that.
Can we, first of all, I love and worship Tom Doyle. He's a wonderful guy and everything else. I really do. But I'd like to see us approach him about possibly beginning a program of having the SIDs pay for some of the services that he gives to them, which includes plowing snow. I mean, I heard from 2 people complaining, they're not in my district, obviously, about too much gravel is one complaint, you know, in the snowstorm, too much gravel. And somebody else complained about plowing that took out some of the sod, you know, because there's no curbs.
They get mailboxes a lot.
Yeah, mailboxes, yeah. And we hear about that. Is there some way we could gently and politically correct ask Tom, would you consider, you know, having a contract with the SID to pay for these services? It would be revenue, obviously. I don't know how much, it'd be worth it or not. I don't know. Anybody have a thought on that?
You got to be ready to say no. If an SID balks, you got to be ready to say no. We're not going to provide you with snow removal
No,
anymore.
we
Then.
can't do that. But I
No,
just
we should talk about it.
I throw it out on the table, you know, and I'm not trying to be anti-suburb or anything.
Yes, you are, but that's all right.
You know,
We love you anyway.
Thank you very much. But, and I am gonna talk to Felix about what we.
Nothing.
Because I could die.
But I am gonna talk to Felix about some things, including, the possibility of, having the sheriff come in the 120th. I'll bring that up to him again, you know.
Well, the other one that we were going to talk about and is rescheduled, I can't remember what the date is, I'll let you know,
Yeah.
was the garages.
Oh, yeah,
To
yeah.
at least have that discussion. And
Yeah.
they're willing to have that discussion.
Talk about the city and the county and everything.
Well, to share,
Yeah.
yeah. And so, we had to take it off that last meeting that we had, so
Yeah,
we'll
we're not
talk.
gonna talk.
It's
One of the other
rescheduled.
budget items that
I've got
the
one
sheriff
topic.
is why, can we come to a consensus about, maybe it's over there, about why we call the sheriff when there's something at the health center? I know that it's been historically that. First of all, it says to me that someday something bad's gonna happen, so we're gonna look like a cover-up or something. I'm concerned about that. But the other thing is, why don't we call the Omaha Police? Because where's the sheriff deputies coming from?
Right.
Did we wait for a week?
My recollection is this was the police that said that they would
They didn't want it.
prefer us to call the sheriff instead.
Well, you know, the sheriff, I talked to him about this. We used to talk a couple of years ago, and I was talking, now we're talking again. But anyway, a couple of years ago, I asked him about this, and he said he didn't want to come. He doesn't want to come downtown.
Sure.
For crimes,
Sympathy, you
for
know.
crimes
So,
committed on
I
county
think we oughta
property, the
use
sheriff
it.
investigates instead of OPD.
What do you think?
By agreement.
Why do you say that?
Because they're already overloaded. So per them, that they don't have time to make those
City?
calls. Yes, we have that conversation with them.
And I think having Marty Bielik up there is a unique opportunity that knows the sheriff's office, now is learning the city. He should be uniquely qualified to give us a little guidance on that. I
Marty knows how to dance.
yes, he
Oh,
does.
you do, don't you?
He do, he do. We used to say that to him every time he came to our podium for the budget.
Okay.
All right, we're done?
Well, two more quick.
One, just
Okay.
on this, so I guess what we'll do is we gotta come back with this list of resolutions, and, do we wanna do that when, in 2 weeks, or next?
But we gotta make more cuts yet too, don't
Oh,
we?
yeah.
Well,
We
I
got the
think
baseline now.
you need to have the conversations that need to be had about what you're recommending here.
Yeah.
Then update us that
Yep.
they're okay to move forward with. And then let's see where the bottom line is after you have those discussions, so that we know what else we need to go after.
Well, you know, you just have to work backwards from the 24th. And
Which is 3 weeks from today.
in the hearing and the publication, make sure that we have enough time for whatever publication requirements they are. So
It's 5 days, I think.
And if it's the first one in July, it's the first
5
one in
days.
July.
So,
Not the-
I think.
Do we meet the first week in July?
Probably not.
Yes.
Not the 8th.
Oh,
We do.
it's kind of reversed.
How that is, it is reversed.
It's the
so
second.
do we want 2 weeks
Something like
to
that.
tighten it up?
First.
Wait.
Joe, what do you think?
You can tighten up in a week. It's not like it's an easy.
Yeah.
Huh?
I think you can
That's
tighten it in a
Joe
week.
for his.
I think we should do it in a week.
Okay.
Let's keep the wheels going here. I sure prefer getting it put in bed in
Thank you.
June.
So do we need another finance committee meeting then?
Yeah, we meet the 1st of July, but not the 8th of July, but the 8th of July is our, human resources meeting.
Good.
We need to get
Yeah.
another.
But when we hit, so what day is
Are you meeting the
public
following week
hearing?
since it's the NACO conference?
What day do we schedule?
Well,
The
let's go
24th?
2 weeks.
We want to wait till the last meeting, then it's the 24th of June.
That's what he
Or
said at the
July
beginning,
1st.
yeah.
Okay.
I would say the 24th because if you make any other changes, then you have to have another public.
Right.
Yep. Yeah, keep it moving as fast as we can, I think.
So then, what, should we have one of these next week then?
Sure.
Get it scheduled. Publish. I don't know. We get it published for next Tuesday.
You just need reasonable, I mean, you just need,
Well, I have to, I mean,
24-hour
I know,
notice,
Sharon,
technically.
do we have a finance committee meeting scheduled?
she can get it in record.
We do now.
We should have
Alright.
time, cause it's.
We
all
have a
like-
whole week.
Yeah.
It's only Tuesday.
Did you
And
have
it's
something to
five,
say, or you just-
5 days,
Yeah,
not
yeah,
5
yeah,
days.
yeah.
Self-defense?
I'm just here to.
For the budget?
For
Got your
the,
backside licked.
Committee meetings, not, committee meetings is 24 hours.
oh, is it?
But she likes to publish them in the
Cliff.
daily record, so they need it like
Excuse me,
Thursday or Friday.
Commissioner Rogers had one more thing.
I just want to bring this point up quick because I think we need to bring it up if this whole chamber discussion. I do think there's a viable TIF option, and it may be. I don't think you'll ever get all the TIF, but just like the turnback tax that's used for that money that we give for North and South, I think that's a good option to come back. I mean, to say for TIF where they're taking the money. I don't know if the state pays for it, but if I think that language is used for the turnback tax is the exact language. So say, you know, if they do TIF, it's a great way to have some type of county or city aid that says, you know, we may not get it all, but a certain percentage of that turns back in state aid to support the money you're taking away. And I think that might be a good talk to have with the chamber. And also for legislators.
Yeah, instead of state aid, it's just turned back to counties.
Yeah, and they already do a turnback tax, and I think that's a
Right.
good
That'd
argument.
be good.
Right.
That'd be great.
There's some logic there.
Well, I intend to bring a resolution to
Oh,
the
big
county
coming
board
in less than an hour.
on youth emergency services, $50,000 to, we can vote
I
at the
think my
chamber.
car is safe as
Yeah,
here.
it's
When
supposed
it
to be
fires.
I know which one I'd rather.
Same
vote for.
thing. Because one of our cars is gonna have to be on the
Well, I
street,
know which one
so
I think
if I
is
go
more
home.
the-
We don't
the
get either of our
purpose
cars in the
of
garage.
what we're supposed
We
to
have
do.
a washer and dryer never